Hey guys, welcome to Green Bean Fiction. So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Deku awakened power of sun and had harem? Part 1. This story is Izuku the Sin of Pride by Cheetox 2. Before starting, make sure to hit that like button, as your one like motivates me to bring more stories, and subscribe the channel if you are new so you won't miss our latest videos. The sun hung high over Dagoba Beach, its golden rays cutting through the morning haze, casting long shadows over the heaps of rusted junk and discarded refuse. The once pristine shoreline, now a graveyard of forgotten relics, shimmered under the relentless light. Izuku Midoriya stood amidst the wreckage, his newly towering frame of 6 feet 1 inch cutting an imposing silhouette against the backdrop of scattered debris. His emerald eyes, sharp with determination, surveyed the chaotic landscape. The air carried the tang of salt and decay, but to Izuku, it smelled of opportunity, a chance to forge something new from the ruins of his past. Months had passed since that fateful day when the world seemed to collapse around him. The sting of All Might's blunt rejection, the venomous words of his former friend Katsuki Bakugo, and the disdainful glares of so-called heroes still lingered in his mind, but they no longer weighed him down. Instead, they fueled a fire within his chest, a searing heat that had awakened something primal, something unyielding. Izuku was quirkless, part of the 20% of humanity deemed powerless in a world dominated by quirks. Yet, as he stood under the blazing sun, he felt anything but weak. A strange, almost divine strength coursed through his veins, as if the sunlight itself was weaving power into his very being. He bent down, wrapping his calloused hands around a rusted refrigerator door half buried in the sand. With a grunt, he hoisted it free, muscles straining but steady, and tossed it onto a growing pile of cleared debris. The beach cleanup had become his training ground, a testament to his resolve. He wasn't just moving junk, he was sculpting himself into something greater, proving to the world, and to himself, that quirk or no quirk, he could rise above. The locals had started to notice the slow transformation of the beach, whispering about the tall, quiet boy who worked tirelessly under the sun. To them, he was an anomaly, a quirkless nobody defying expectations. To Izuku, he was simply taking the first steps toward his destiny. The sun climbed higher, its warmth intensifying. Izuku paused, wiping sweat from his brow, and tilted his face toward the sky. The light bathed him, and for a moment, he felt invincible. Words, unbidden, rose to his lips, resonating with a confidence he barely recognized. "Who decided that I am unworthy? Under the sun's gaze, all are equal." His voice, steady and commanding, carried over the crash of waves. He didn't know where the words came from, but they felt right, as if spoken by someone, or something, greater than himself. At Aldera Junior High, the atmosphere had shifted since Izuku's transformation. The hallways, once a gauntlet of jeers and taunts, now fell silent as he passed. His classmates, who had once mocked his quirkless status, averted their eyes, unnerved by the calm intensity in his gaze. His teachers, too, seemed at a loss, their lectures faltering when Izuku's hand rose to answer a question with a precision that left them scrambling. He wasn't just taller now, he carried himself with a quiet authority, a presence that demanded respect without ever raising his voice. Katsuki Bakugo, however, was not so easily cowed. The explosive blonde had always thrived on dominance, his powerful quirk fueling his arrogance. To see Izuku, Deku, the quirkless nobody, tower over him with a body honed by months of relentless training was an insult he couldn't stomach. During a break between classes, Bakugo cornered Izuku in the courtyard, his palms sparking with miniature explosions. "What's with you, huh?" he snarled, crimson eyes blazing. "Think you're hot stuff now just 'cause you got a growth spurt? You're still a quirkless loser, Deku. You'll always be nothing." Izuku turned slowly, his expression unreadable. The midday sun streamed through the school's open windows, bathing him in light. His eyes glinted, not with anger, but with something far more dangerous, certainty. He stepped closer, his shadow falling over Bakugo, who instinctively took a step back. "Pardon me," Izuku said, his voice low and resonant, "but I find it distasteful to be looked down upon by one so small." The words hung in the air, sharp and unyielding, as if carved from the sun itself. Bakugo's mouth opened, but no retort came. For the first time, he saw something in Izuku's gaze that made his blood run cold, a beast, calm and collected, waiting to strike. The moment was broken by the bell, signaling the end of break. Izuku turned without another word, leaving Bakugo rooted to the spot, his fists trembling. The other students, who had gathered to watch the confrontation, dispersed quickly, whispering among themselves. Izuku's presence had become a force, a quiet storm that unsettled everyone around him. Back at Dagoba Beach, Izuku's training intensified. The piles of junk dwindled as his strength grew. He didn't just lift and carry, he strategized, analyzing the best ways to move heavy objects with minimal effort, using leverage and momentum to his advantage. His notebooks, once filled with hero analyses, now brimmed with workout regimens, nutritional plans, and tactical notes. He studied martial arts videos online, practicing katas under the moonlight when the beach was quiet. He sprinted along the shore, weaving through debris to hone his agility. Each day, he pushed his limits, driven by a pride that refused to be extinguished. His mother, Inko, watched his transformation with a mix of awe and worry. She had always supported his dreams, even when the world told him they were impossible. Now, seeing him return home with a body sculpted by hard work and a fire in his eyes she hadn't seen before, she couldn't help but feel proud. "Izuku, you're different," she said one evening as they sat down to a meal of grilled fish and steamed vegetables, carefully planned to fuel his training. "Are you sure you're okay?" Izuku smiled, a rare, genuine smile that softened his hardened features. "I'm more than okay, Mom. I'm finding my own way." He didn't tell her about the strange dreams that haunted his nights, visions of a figure wreathed in flames, wielding a massive axe, whispering of pride and power. Nor did he mention the heat that surged through him under the sun, as if the light itself was fueling his soul. Those were mysteries he wasn't ready to unravel, not yet. As the months passed, Dagoba Beach began to transform. The mountains of trash shrank, revealing stretches of clean sand and sparkling waves. The locals, initially skeptical, started to gather, offering words of encouragement or even lending a hand. Izuku didn't seek their praise, but he accepted it with a nod, his focus unwavering. He wasn't cleaning the beach for glory, he was proving a point, to himself, to the heroes who dismissed him, to the world that labeled him weak. One afternoon, as the sun reached its zenith, Izuku stood atop a cleared section of the beach, a rusted car frame hoisted above his head. His muscles burned, but the heat in his chest blazed brighter. He hurled the frame onto a pile, the impact echoing like a thunderclap. The small crowd of onlookers gasped, murmuring among themselves. Izuku turned to face the sun, its light enveloping him, and spoke words that seemed to come from somewhere beyond himself. "To those who doubt me, know this, my pride is unyielding, and under the sun's radiance, I am unstoppable." The crowd fell silent, awestruck by the sheer conviction in his voice. Even the seagulls overhead seemed to pause, as if the world itself was listening. Izuku didn't notice. He was already moving to the next pile of debris, his heart pounding with a rhythm that felt like destiny. At school, the dynamic had shifted irrevocably. Bakugo's taunts grew less frequent, replaced by a wary silence. The other students kept their distance, sensing the change in Izuku's demeanor. His teachers, once dismissive, began to call on him more often, impressed by his analytical mind and newfound confidence. But Izuku didn't care for their approval. He was done seeking validation from a system that judged him for something he couldn't control. One day, as he walked home under the setting sun, he passed a group of kids playing hero in an alley. One of them, a small boy with no visible quirk, was being pushed around by the others. Izuku stopped, his shadow falling over the group. The bullies froze, their bravado evaporating under his gaze. "Leave him be," Izuku said, his voice calm but laced with steel. "Strength isn't in your quirks, it's in how you choose to use it." The bullies scattered, and the small boy looked up at Izuku with wide, grateful eyes. "Are you a hero?" he asked. Izuku crouched down, meeting the boy's gaze. "Not yet," he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "But I'm working on it." As he walked away, the sun dipped below the horizon, and the heat in his chest faded to a quiet ember. But Izuku knew it would return, just as the sun would rise again. He was quirkless, yes, but he was no longer powerless. With every step, every lift, every moment under the sun, he was forging himself into something new, a hero born not of quirks, but of pride, determination, and an unyielding will to prove the world wrong. And so, under the watchful gaze of the sun, Izuku Midoriya continued his journey, a flame of pride burning brighter with each passing day. The sun blazed over Dagoba Beach, its light glinting off the newly restored shoreline, where waves lapped gently against clean sand. 10 months of relentless effort had transformed the junk-strewn wasteland into a place of beauty, a testament to Izuku Midoriya's unwavering resolve. Standing at the water's edge, his 6 feet 1 inch frame rippled with hard-earned muscle, his emerald eyes reflecting the ocean's sparkle. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of salt and freedom. Izuku's chest swelled with a quiet pride, not arrogance, but a deep, unshakable belief in his own worth. He had done this, quirkless and doubted, proving to himself that he could reshape the world one piece at a time. 2 months ago, the beach had gained another visitor, Mei Hatsume, a whirlwind of pink dreadlocks and boundless enthusiasm. She'd arrived with a spark in her eyes, chattering about her inventions and her dream to revolutionize hero support gear. Izuku had been hauling a rusted engine block when she'd bounded up, unfazed by his towering presence, and declared him the perfect test subject for her creations. Her unapologetic pride in her work resonated with him, and soon, their days were filled with shared laughter and collaboration. Mei scavenged usable electronics from the beach's debris, tinkering with gadgets while Izuku trained, her inventions occasionally sparking or whirring in the background as he lifted and ran. The transformation wasn't just external. One morning, Izuku had woken to find a strange tattoo etched across his back, a swirling design that pulsed faintly, like embers under his skin. His mother, Inko, had nearly fainted, fretting that he'd joined some delinquent gang. "Izuku, what is this? Are you in trouble?" she'd asked, her voice trembling. He'd knelt before her, his voice steady. "I take pride in not making a fool of myself, Mom. This is no gang mark, it's just me, trying to make you proud." She'd believed him, though her worry lingered. Izuku didn't tell her about the dreams, the figure wreathed in flames, an axe in hand, whispering of pride, or the heat that surged through him under the sun's gaze. Those secrets were his to bear. Now, he stood before the gates of UA. High, the premier hero academy in Japan. The towering structure loomed, its prestige lost on Izuku. He felt no awe, only a calm determination to prove himself. Other examinees whispered as he passed, their eyes lingering on his sculpted frame, clad in a sleeveless shirt and track pants that showcased his physique. Some shrank back, intimidated, others stared in curiosity. Izuku ignored them all, his focus unbroken, until a soft gasp caught his attention. A girl with short brown hair stumbled, her foot catching on a crack in the pavement. Without thinking, Izuku's hand shot out, steadying her before she could fall. "It's a bad omen to fall on your face," he said, his voice low but kind. The girl's cheeks flushed pink as she stammered a thank you and hurried off, leaving Izuku to wonder if he'd said something wrong. Before he could dwell on it, a familiar weight landed on his chest. Mei, her arms wrapping around him in an enthusiastic hug. "It's nice to see you, Mei," Izuku chuckled, "but we should get going." Mei grinned, clinging tighter. "Just a sec, I'm comfy." Laughing, Izuku hoisted her onto his shoulder with ease, her slight frame no burden to his strength. Together, they strode into UA, Mei chattering about her latest babies, while Izuku scanned the crowd, his expression unreadable. The written exam passed in a blur, Izuku's analytical mind making quick work of the questions. In the auditorium, President Mike's booming voice explained the practical exam. Destroy robotic villains to earn points, with each examinee assigned to a battle center. Izuku was at Gate A, stretching in preparation, his muscles flexing under the sunlight streaming through the windows. The other examinees stole glances, some whispering about his physique, others unnerved by the calm intensity in his eyes. He paid them no mind, his gaze settling on the brown-haired girl from earlier. She fidgeted nervously, and Izuku considered offering a word of encouragement, until a sharp voice interrupted. "That girl over there, are you trying to ruin her chances by distracting her? If so, you should leave this instant." The speaker was a tall boy with glasses, his posture rigid with self-righteous authority. Izuku recognized him as the one who'd interrupted President Mike earlier, pointing out a supposed error in the exam explanation. Izuku turned slowly, his eyes narrowing. The glasses-wearing boy faltered under his gaze, sweat beading on his forehead as Izuku's height and presence loomed. "You suggest I leave?" Izuku's voice was a low growl, each word precise. "Who decided that? Do you think you hold any authority here?" "The answer is no. Who are you to decide someone's fate when I barely know you? Watch what you say about me, or anyone else, with your arrogance, weakling." The final word landed like a hammer, and the boy's legs wobbled, his face paling as if scorched by an unseen flame. Izuku turned away, leaving him to recover. Approaching the brown-haired girl, Izuku noticed her trembling. Before she could react, he gently grasped her waist, turning her to face him as she yelped in surprise. "You're nervous," he said softly, "which is understandable. But have pride in yourself. Take calming breaths to ease that fear." He set her down, patting her head with a faint smirk as she blushed, following his advice with slow, steady breaths. The gates to the battle center opened with a metallic groan, and Izuku didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward, leaving the others frozen in shock. Present Mike's voice echoed, "What are you all waiting for? There's no countdown in a real battle. Follow that kid." The examinees scrambled after him, but Izuku was already in the mock city, his movements fluid and precise. The exam was almost laughably easy. The robotic villains, 1-pointers, 2-pointers, 3-pointers, crumpled under his fists, their metal frames no match for his raw strength. Izuku moved with purpose, his strikes calculated, never wasting energy. "This is nothing but disappointment," he muttered, smashing a 3-pointer with a single punch. The sun blazed overhead, and with each passing minute, he felt stronger, as if the light itself was fueling him. By the time he'd racked up 69 points, he decided it was enough. Leaping onto a nearby rooftop, he surveyed the battlefield, ready to assist anyone in trouble. Inside UA's control room, the faculty watched the monitors with keen interest. Principal Nezu, his small form perched on a chair, sipped tea as he observed. "Quite a batch this year," he mused, his paw hovering over a large red button. "Let's see how they handle this." With a press, the ground trembled, and a colossal 0-pointer robot emerged, its massive form dwarfing the mock city as it smashed through buildings. All Might, in his weakened form, stared at the monitor showing Izuku. The boy's strength, his confidence, his sheer presence, it was unrecognizable from the tearful kid he'd left on that rooftop months ago. "I thought he was quirkless," All Might whispered, his mind racing. Did he lie? Or is something else at play? The thought of an unknown force chilled him, but he pushed it aside, focusing on the screen. Izuku, now at 167 points, barely flinched as the 0-pointer loomed. "Overkill much," he scoffed, shaking his head. Most examinees fled, but a desperate cry stopped him cold. "Help, please, someone." It was the brown-haired girl, pinned under rubble, her leg trapped. Izuku's veins pulsed, the heat in his chest flaring as he sprinted toward her, the sun amplifying his speed. He cleared the debris in seconds, lifting her bridal style and carrying her to safety. Setting her down, he turned to the 0-pointer, a small smile curving his lips. "I believe it's time." The girl, Ochako Uraraka, as he'd later learn, watched in awe as Izuku charged the towering robot. The examinees below froze, and even the faculty leaned closer to their screens. Izuku's body thrummed with power, the heat within him surging to a crescendo. He crouched, the ground cracking beneath him, and launched himself skyward, a crater marking his takeoff. At the peak of his leap, he drew back his right fist, heat radiating from it as if it were forged in a furnace. With a laugh of pure exhilaration, he drove his fist into the 0-pointer's head, the impact sending sparks and shockwaves through the air. The robot staggered, its head caving in as explosions rippled across its frame. Izuku descended, the wind whipping around him, until a sudden force halted his fall. He hovered, disoriented, until he realized Ochako had touched him, her quirk nullifying his gravity. She released him, and he landed lightly, turning to her with a raised brow. "I thank you for the save," he said, his tone curious but composed. "Are you all right?" Ochako, pale and trembling, promptly vomited a stream of rainbows. Izuku blinked, unsure how to respond, but his attention shifted to his hand, still warm with that strange, fiery power. The exam ended, and Izuku walked out of the battle center, his expression stoic despite the whispers and fearful glances from other examinees. "Hey, wait up," a cheerful voice called. He turned to see Ochako jogging toward him, her face bright despite her earlier ordeal. "Thanks again for saving me. I'm Ochako Uraraka, nice to meet you again." She laughed awkwardly, craning her neck to meet his gaze. Izuku chuckled, a rare warmth in his voice. "Izuku Midoriya, a pleasure to meet you again, Ochako Uraraka." She blushed, mumbling about hoping they'd both pass, then hurried off. Izuku watched her go, a faint smile lingering, until a familiar weight landed on his shoulders. "May," he sighed, amused. "Nice to know my shoulders are so comfortable. How'd you do on the exam?" May grinned, perched like a gremlin. "Aced it with my babies." "Oh, Izuku, I've got ideas for your hero costume, something epic." "Really?" Izuku raised a brow. "You'll want to hear my idea for a weapon, dreadlocks." "Hey," May pouted. "No nicknames. Till high school, remember." Izuku's laugh echoed as they walked through UA's gates, the sun setting behind them, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with pride. The night sky stretched endlessly above Dagoba Beach, stars twinkling like scattered diamonds against the velvet darkness. The moon hung low, its silver light casting a serene glow over the restored shoreline, where waves whispered softly against the sand. Izuku Midoriya stood shirtless, his track pants clinging to his legs as the sea breeze brushed his skin. Days had passed since the UA entrance exam, and he'd returned to the beach that had become his sanctuary, a place where he'd forged himself anew. The sun's warmth no longer fueled him, but the moonlight seemed to stir something different, a quieter, more introspective heat that pulsed faintly in his chest. Izuku's routine had intensified. His mornings began with jogs along the shore, the rhythmic thud of his feet against the sand grounding him. One-handed push-ups, now reaching 1,000 in mere minutes, were a testament to his relentless drive. He'd switch hands mid-set, muscles flexing under the sun's gaze, each movement precise and powerful. The beach, once a dumping ground, now gleamed with pride, a mirror of his own transformation. Between workouts, he made time for Mei Hatsume, whose infectious energy and inventive genius had become a constant in his life. They'd tinker together, her salvaging circuits from forgotten appliances while he hauled debris, their banter a welcome reprieve from his solitary focus. He also helped his mother, Inko, at her small cafe, a cozy establishment that had blossomed into a local favorite. As a waiter, Izuku drew attention, his chiseled frame and quiet confidence turning heads, particularly among the female patrons. They'd linger over their coffee, stealing glances at him in his crisp uniform, but he served with a polite detachment, his mind elsewhere, on his training, his dreams, and the strange power simmering within him. Now, after a grueling workout, Izuku checked the time on his phone, the screen glowing faintly in the dusk. He had enough time for a walk. Slipping on a sleeveless shirt and a pair of glasses, strange accessories that inexplicably tempered the fiery pride that surged under sunlight, he left the beach, the sand cool beneath his feet. At home, Izuku stood before his bedroom mirror, adjusting the glasses that rested on his nose. The lenses calmed him, dulling the heat that often threatened to consume his thoughts. "I don't know why," he murmured, "but these make me feel centered." He shed his shirt, revealing the lion tattoo etched across his back, its lines bold and intricate, pulsing faintly as if alive. The mark had appeared months ago, a mystery tied to the dreams of a flame-wreathed figure and a voice that spoke of pride. "Whatever this power is," he whispered, tracing the tattoo's edges, "this mark is its source." And that voice, who was he? A knock interrupted his thoughts. Inko peeked in, her eyes wide with excitement. "Izuku, it came. Your letter." She held out an envelope stamped with UA's insignia, her hands trembling. Izuku took it gently, offering a reassuring smile. "I need a moment, Mom." Inko nodded, retreating but pacing anxiously outside his door, her footsteps a soft rhythm in the quiet house. Izuku sat at his desk, the envelope heavy in his hands. He sighed, bracing himself. "Let's get this over with." Tearing it open, he found a letter and a small device that clattered onto his desk. A hologram flickered to life, and All Might's booming voice filled the room. "Booyah! I am here as a hologram, young Midoriya. I'm pleased to announce you've earned 167 villain points, making you the representative of the first-year students. But wait, there's more." You also gained 60 hero points for saving an examinee, totaling 227 points, surpassing even me in the number 2 hero. Congratulations, young Midoriya, and we. The device shattered under Izuku's fist, his glasses slipping off as he stood. His height seemed to swell, his eyes blazing with a fiery intensity that matched the smirk curling his lips. Anger coursed through him, a molten heat that drowned out All Might's words. I show no sympathy nor share pride with a pitiful fool who amounts to nothing, he growled, the words dripping with disdain. The hypocrisy of All Might's praise, after dismissing him as unworthy, ignited a fury he hadn't felt since that rooftop rejection. He replaced his glasses, the heat subsiding as his composure returned. Opening his door, he found Inko waiting, her eyes brimming with worry and hope. His expression softened, and he pulled her into a gentle hug. I passed, Mom, he said, his voice warm. Inko's tears soaked his shirt as she clung to him, and Izuku laughed, a rare sound that eased her fears. I'm okay, I promise. Later that night, Izuku stood on Dagoba Beach, the moonlight bathing him in silver. The stars glittered above, and the ocean's murmur was a soothing counterpoint to the heat still lingering in his chest. He gazed at the sky, lost in thought, when a familiar voice broke the silence. Huh, I should have known you'd be here. Izuku chuckled, turning to see Mei approaching, her pink dreadlocks swaying in the breeze. She wore a loose tank top and shorts, her usual tool belt absent, giving her a softer, more relaxed look. This place led me to you, Dreads, he teased, his voice light. Mei pouted, then laughed, closing the distance between them. She grabbed his hand, her fingers warm against his. It's been months since I saw you transform this beach, she said, her eyes sparkling. I thought you were stealing parts for my babies. And then you tried to brain me with a wrench, Izuku shot back, grinning. It stung, if I'm honest. I said I was sorry, muscles. Mei huffed, her pout returning. They both laughed, the sound mingling with the waves. Izuku turned to her, his gaze softening. He pulled her closer, her body fitting against his as her cheeks flushed. I guess being prideful makes me bolder, he said, his voice low, almost reverent. Mei's eyes gleamed. Maybe I like it. Their faces drew near, lips meeting in a tentative kiss that quickly deepened. The world faded. The stars, the sea, the weight of Yue's letter, until it was just them, lost in each other. Izuku's hands found her waist, lifting her effortlessly. Mei wrapped her legs around him, her fingers tangling in his hair as the kiss grew heated, their breaths mingling in soft moans. He sank to the sand, cradling her against him, the cool grains a contrast to the warmth of their embrace. They parted, gasping for air, their eyes locked. That was something else, Mei whispered, her voice husky. Izuku smiled, brushing a stray dreadlock from her face. I'm glad it's with you. Mei leaned in, pressing soft kisses along his neck, each one sending a shiver through him. I'm glad I get this moment with you, Izuku, she murmured, her breath warm against his skin. They sat there, wrapped in each other, the moonlight casting their shadows across the sand. Izuku's gaze drifted to the sky, the heat in his chest stirring faintly, as if the moon itself were kindling a new kind of strength. This is nice, he said softly, his voice barely above the waves. Yeah, Mei agreed, nestling closer. It is. The night stretched on, and Izuku felt a quiet certainty settle over him. Yue awaited, with its challenges and skeptics, but here, under the moon's gentle light, he was more than quirkless. He was Izuku Midoriya, forged in pride, tempered by resolve, and ready to carve his own path, no matter what the world thought. The morning sun cast golden rays across Musudafu, its warmth seeping into the streets as Izuku Midoriya stepped out of his apartment, clad in Yue Hai's crisp uniform. The navy blazer hugged his broad shoulders, the tie neatly knotted, and his glasses lent him an air of calm restraint. His towering 6 feet 1 inch frame drew glances from passers-by, but he paid them no mind, his thoughts fixed on the day ahead. As he adjusted his bag, Inko's voice rang out, bright with pride. Izuku. She launched herself into a fierce hug, her small frame barely reaching his chest. I'm so proud of you. Have an amazing day at school. Izuku's lips curved into a gentle smile, his emerald eyes softening. Of course, Mom. He returned the embrace, careful not to overwhelm her with his strength, then stepped back, waving as he headed out. The door clicked shut behind him, and he paused on the sidewalk, the sun's rays intensifying as they bathed his skin. He removed his glasses, feeling a familiar heat surge through his veins. His muscles swelled slightly, straining against the uniform's fabric. With a smirk, he shed his blazer, draping it over his shoulder. "Things might get interesting today," he murmured, his voice laced with anticipation. In a single, fluid motion, he leapt, landing atop a nearby building, then sprinted across rooftops, the city blurring beneath him as he moved with effortless grace. High loomed ahead, its glass towers glinting like a beacon of ambition. The campus buzzed with nervous energy, first-year students weaving through the courtyard, their voices a mix of excitement and anxiety. Izuku descended from his rooftop run, landing lightly and slipping his glasses back on. The school's grandeur meant little to him. It was merely a stage to prove himself, a place to defy the world's low expectations. He navigated the halls, searching for Class 1A, his expression one of mild irritation. "How hard is it to find one classroom?" he muttered, hardly a mark of pride to be lost like this. When he finally spotted the oversized door of Class 1A, he pushed it open, only to be met with a cacophony of voices. A tall boy with glasses gestured animatedly, scolding another with spiky blonde hair. "Don't prop your feet on the desk. It's disrespectful to your classmates." The blonde sneered, sparks crackling from his palms. "Disrespectful? I don't think so. Extra. What's your deal, anyway?" "Some fancy middle school, Sume Junior High, Tenya Iida," the bespectacled boy replied, adjusting his glasses. "And you wish to be a hero with that attitude?" The room's attention shifted as Izuku stepped inside, his presence commanding silence. Iida's eyes widened, recognizing him, and he strode forward, only to falter under Izuku's piercing gaze. "I already know your name, Iida," Izuku said coolly, his glasses glinting. "No need for introductions." Iida squared his shoulders, undeterred. "I must commend you, Midoriya. You discerned the true nature of the entrance exam's hero points. I misjudged you, and for that, I apologize. You were the superior candidate." Izuku sighed, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. He slipped off his glasses, and the air seemed to thicken, his aura intensifying. "Tenya Iida," he said, his voice low and deliberate, "your disrespect at the exam isn't forgotten. We're classmates now, nothing more." The words carried a quiet menace, and Iida nodded stiffly, stepping back as if singed by an unseen flame. A softer voice broke the tension. "Hey, I know that hair." Izuku turned to see Ochako Uraraka, her round face beaming as she approached, craning her neck to meet his gaze. "I'm so glad you're in my class." Izuku's expression softened, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "Good to see you too, Uraraka. It'd be dull without a familiar face." He reached out, patting her head gently, his large hand dwarfing her. She blushed, giggling nervously. "Could you, stop petting me?" she asked, though her smile betrayed her amusement. Izuku chuckled, withdrawing his hand. "You seem to enjoy it, but if you insist, I'll stop, for now." Ochako's blush deepened, and she playfully swatted his arm, prompting a laugh from him. Across the room, Katsuki Bakugo seethed, his crimson eyes locked on Izuku. Memories of their last confrontation burned in his mind. Izuku's towering figure, his calm defiance. "Did you think you'd be the best? Who decided that? Don't assume I'm intimidated by you, Bakugo. Someone will always surpass you, and that someone is me, with pride in my soul." Bakugo's fists clenched, sparks flickering. "I'll crush you, Deku," he vowed silently. Ochako's voice pulled Izuku's attention back. "I wonder what today's like. Ceremony stuff. Guidance counseling. And the teacher, what'll they be like? I'm so nervous." Before Izuku could respond, a raspy voice cut through the chatter. "If you're here to make friends, do it somewhere else." A figure emerged from a yellow sleeping bag on the floor, his haggard face framed by dark, unkempt hair. He took a long sip from a juice pouch, his eyes scanning the room. "This is the heroics department. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Call me Aizawa-sensei. It took you 8 seconds to quiet down, too slow. Life's short, kids. You need sharper instincts." The class gaped, stunned by their disheveled teacher. Aizawa produced a stack of gym uniforms, tossing them onto a desk. Put these on and head to the PE grounds. Now, as the students filed out, Izuku lingered, eyeing the uniform's tight-fitting jacket with disdain. "This'll restrict my movements," he muttered, slipping it on reluctantly. The fabric strained against his shoulders, threatening to tear. A cheerful voice interrupted his thoughts. "Yo, you okay, man?" A red-haired boy with sharp teeth and a wide grin approached. "Name's Eijiro Kirishima. Gotta say, you're ripped. Heard you smashed that zero-pointer like it was nothing. That's manly as hell." Izuku raised a brow, amused. "Manly? Huh, you could say I have something unique." He closed his locker, the jacket already feeling constrictive. Kirishima's enthusiasm was infectious, but Izuku's mind was elsewhere, fixed on Aizawa. Shota Aizawa, asterisk he thought, let's see if you're worthy of respect. Asterisk. The sun blazed over UA High's PE grounds, its rays igniting the air with a fierce intensity that mirrored the tension among Class 1A. The students stood in a loose semicircle, their faces a mix of anticipation and unease, as Shota Aizawa, their disheveled homeroom teacher, announced a brutal twist, a quirk assessment test, with expulsion awaiting whoever ranked last. The declaration hung heavy, sharpening the competitive edge in the air. The tests began, each event a crucible to forge or break the aspiring heroes. The 50-meter dash came first, a blur of motion as students showcased their quirks. Some thrived, their abilities propelling them across the line in seconds, others faltered, their powers ill-suited for speed. Izuku Midoriya, his glasses glinting under the sunlight, stood calmly, his navy tracksuit stretched taut over his muscular frame. Katsuki Bakugo, his crimson eyes burning with rivalry, lined up beside him, a smirk twisting his lips as he leaned into taunt. "Ready to eat my dust, Deku?" Izuku's gaze didn't waver, his expression one of serene indifference. He didn't respond, his silence a wall that infuriated Bakugo further. The whistle blew, and Izuku moved, a green blur that left only the echo of his footsteps. The machine beeped, its robotic voice cutting through the stunned silence. Time, 2.34 seconds. Asterisk. Bakugo froze, his own time of 4.13 seconds flashing on the display. His mind reeled. No way, no fucking way this quirkless loser outran me. His fist sparked, but Izuku merely sighed, his face betraying mild disappointment at his own performance. The class whispered, their eyes darting between the two, sensing a rivalry that crackled like a live wire. The tests continued. Grip strength, standing long jump, side-to-side steps, and Izuku dominated each with effortless precision. He held back, careful not to unleash the full force of the mysterious power that surged under the sun's gaze, yet his results still drew gasps. His grip crushed the dynamometer, his jumps cleared impossible distances, and his agility left his classmates scrambling to keep up. Bakugo's scowl deepened with every event, his explosions barely keeping pace. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Man, Midoriya's killing it," Eijiro Kirishima muttered, his red hair glinting as he scratched his chin. "What's his deal? Dude, he took down a zero-pointer in the entrance exam," another student, a boy with spiky black hair, chimed in. "Guys gotta have some crazy quirk." "Quirk," a voice scoffed. Bakugo, his tone venomous. "That Deku's a quirkless nobody. He's faking it, mark my words." "Faking that." A girl with earphone jacks on her ears gestured toward Izuku, who was casually stretching, his muscles straining the fabric of his uniform. "You saw him move. That's no fake." The final event arrived. The softball throw. Ochako Uraraka stepped up first, her quirk sending the ball into the stratosphere, earning an infinity symbol on the scoreboard. The class cheered, but Izuku, standing in the circle next, was unfazed. He gripped the softball, its weight negligible in his calloused hand. Voices buzzed around him. "Bet he'll crush this one too," Kirishima said, leaning forward. "No way he beats infinity," another student countered. "But after everything else, I'm curious." Izuku's fingers tightened around the ball. He considered removing his glasses, letting the sun's power flood through him, but he paused, shaking his head. "No need to overdo it. I'm already near the top." With a fluid motion, he wound up, his muscles flexing as the uniform's seams groaned. He threw, the ball arcing high, a speck against the azure sky. The machine beeped, Distance, 799.5 meters. Asterisk. A murmur of awe swept through the class. Izuku nodded, satisfied, and turned to leave the circle, until Aizawa's voice stopped him cold. Was that your all, Izuku Midoriya? If so, what's the point of you being here? The class froze, eyes darting between student and teacher. Aizawa's gaze was piercing, his eyes glowing red, his capture scarf floating as his hair rose. The air crackled with tension. Izuku tilted his head, his expression unreadable. Is there a reason you're singling me out, sensei? Aizawa stepped forward, his scarf lashing out to grab Izuku's arm. He pulled, but Izuku didn't budge, rooted like a mountain. The teacher's eyes narrowed, but Izuku merely sighed, a sound heavy with disdain. Sensei, he said, his voice calm but edged with steel, let me make something clear. He reached up, removing his glasses and tossing them toward Ochako, who caught them instinctively, the lenses landing atop her head. The change was immediate. Steam rose from Izuku's body, his height swelling to an imposing 6 feet 3 inches. His muscles bulged, tearing the jacket of his PE uniform to shreds, revealing the lion tattoo emblazoned across his back, a fierce, glowing emblem that seemed to pulse with life. His voice deepened, resonating with an authority that silenced the field. Did you think your threat could sway me? Who decided that? He took a step forward, the ground trembling faintly. Did you assume I'm weak because I held back? Who decided that? His eyes, now blazing with an inner fire, locked onto Aizawa, who seemed to shrink under their weight. The class gaped, the girls blushing at the sight of Izuku's chiseled physique, the boys whispering about the sheer power radiating from him. The lion tattoo gleamed, its presence almost otherworldly. Aizawa released his scarf, his quirk deactivating as his hair fell. Izuku's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. I see your pride knows when to yield before someone leagues beyond you. He turned, striding toward his classmates, the heat from his body palpable even from a distance. The air felt charged, as if the sun itself had descended to walk among them. Reaching Ochako, who craned her neck to meet his gaze, her face a vivid scarlet, Izuku chuckled softly. Thank you for keeping my glasses safe, Uraraka. It fills my heart with pride. He retrieved the lenses, placing them back on his nose, his height shrinking slightly but his presence no less commanding. He patted her head, earning a shy smile. To the rest of you, he said, addressing the class with a calm authority, don't falter. Fight to stay here. With that, he walked off to change, leaving a stunned silence in his wake. Aizawa's heart raced, a rare flicker of unease crossing his face. Across the field, All Might, hidden in his weakened form, watched with wide eyes, his mind grappling with what he'd witnessed. That power, it's not a quirk. Or is it? What is he? Asterisk. Bakugo stood rooted, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles whitened. Fear, not anger, gripped him. He had a quirk this whole time. How? That look, he was staring right at me. The memory of Izuku's words echoed. Someone will always surpass you, and that someone is me. For the first time, Bakugo felt the weight of doubt, a crack in his unshakable confidence. Later, Izuku donned his school uniform, the blazer now tailored to fit his frame, and made his way to the support department. The halls of UA buzzed with the day's events, but his mind was elsewhere, focused on the next step of his journey. He pushed open the door to the support department, greeted by a cacophony of whirring machines and the faint scent of scorched metal. Mei Hatsume's laughter rang out, punctuated by a small explosion from a workbench. Dreads, Izuku called, a grin tugging at his lips. What chaos are you brewing now? Mei spun around, her pink dreadlocks bouncing, a wrench in one hand and a half-built gadget in the other. Izuku, just in time. I'm working on something epic for your weapon. Wait till you see it. He crossed his arms, leaning against the doorway. Good, because I've got ideas of my own. Let's make something that screams pride. Mei's eyes sparkled with mischief. Oh, we're gonna make waves, muscles. The room hummed with their shared ambition, the promise of creation and defiance, as Izuku stood ready to forge his path, a lion unbowed under the sun's unrelenting gaze. The halls of UA, high buzzed with the rhythm of a typical high school, yet the undercurrent of ambition set it apart. The morning unfolded with an almost mundane cadence, mathematics taught by ectoplasm's precise clones, English delivered with present mic's booming flair, and classical Japanese guided by Midnight's sharp wit. For Class 1A, these lessons were a grounding contrast to their heroics training, a reminder that even future heroes needed to master the basics. Reactions varied as the lunch bell chimed. Mina Ishido slumped dramatically, her pink skin glistening with exhaustion, while Denki Kaminari and Hantashiro exchanged weary groans. Toru Hagakuri's invisible form sagged, her uniform betraying her fatigue. Meanwhile, Momo Yaoyorozu, Tenya Iida, Katsuki Bakugo, and Izuku Midoriya emerged unfazed, their focus unshaken by the academic rigor. While most of Class 1A flocked to the cafeteria, Izuku slipped away, his school uniform crisp but his glasses lending a calm restraint to his towering presence. He entered a classroom in the support department, where the air hummed with the clatter of tools and the faint scent of scorched metal. Mei Hatsume, her pink dreadlocks swaying as she hunched over a workbench, was a whirlwind of focus, her hands deftly assembling a device she'd dreamed of crafting 10 months ago. Sparks flew from her latest, baby, a prototype brimming with potential. Izuku leaned against the doorway, his glasses softening the intensity of his emerald gaze. A smile tugged at his lips as he watched Mei, her confidence and drive a mirror to his own. He wondered, not for the first time, if their paths would have crossed without the mysterious power that had reshaped him. Would they share this bond, this spark, if he hadn't become the lion he was now? "You're staring, muscles," Mei said, her voice teasing without breaking her focus. "What's on your mind?" Izuku's smile widened. "Just admiring the person I care about," pouring her heart into her creations. Mei snorted, still tinkering. Flattery won't speed this up. But Izuku crossed the room, his footsteps silent, and wrapped his arms around her waist. Mei froze, her tools clattering softly as she tilted her head to meet his gaze, his warmth enveloping her. His voice softened, sincere. "I mean it, Mei. You're incredible, and I'd never forgive myself if you got hurt because of me." His words carried a weight, a vow born of the pride that burned within him. Mei's golden eyes softened, a rare blush dusting her cheeks. She leaned into him, the heat from his body a comforting cocoon. "I care about you too, Izuku," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. But she pulled back, her grin returning as she gestured to her workbench. "Which is why I need to finish this baby. No more distractions, okay?" Izuku chuckled, then gently turned her face to his, capturing her lips in a kiss that sparked like one of her inventions. Mei melted into it, her hands gripping his shirt as the kiss deepened, heat blooming between them. She pressed closer, her breath hitching, but just as the moment threatened to consume them, Izuku pulled back, a smirk dancing on his lips. Mei's face was a vivid scarlet, her eyes wide with flustered desire. "No distractions, right?" he teased, stepping back. "I've got class, dreads. Catch you later." He left, his laughter echoing as Mei stared after him, her mind racing with thoughts far less mechanical than her projects. Lunch ended, and Class 1A reconvened in their classroom, anticipation crackling like static. The students buzzed with speculation about their heroics lesson. What's Aizawa-sensei got planned? Eijiro Kirishima wondered aloud, his red hair catching the light. Hantashiro shrugged, slinging an arm over his chair. He said teachers can teach however they want. Could be anything. I'm curious who our instructor will be, Momo Yaoyorozu mused, her fingers tapping thoughtfully. They didn't specify. Izuku, seated at his desk, was engrossed in a notebook, his pen moving with deliberate precision. The pages, once filled with hero analyses, now held theories about his power, the heat that surged under sunlight, the possibility of harnessing it at night. "If I can amplify it under the moon," he scribbled, his focus absolute. "Mei can't know yet, not until I'm sure." The door slammed open, and All Might strode in, his Silver Age costume gleaming, his grin a beacon of charisma. "I am here," he bellowed, coming through the door like a normal person. The class erupted. Kirishima whooped, Kaminari's jaw dropped, and Tsuyu Asui tilted her head, noting the costume's vintage flair. Bakugo's eyes narrowed, while Izuku's grip tightened on his pen, his thoughts sour. Johnny Bravo knockoff. All Might's presence filled the room as he strode to the front. "Welcome, students. I'll be teaching you the true essence of heroism. Today's lesson: battle training." Bakugo's lips curled into a feral grin. Battle. Izuku's eyes flickered with interest. Training. Asterisk. All Might pressed a button, and the wall slid open, revealing cases labeled with seat numbers. Every hero needs a proper wardrobe. These contain your custom costumes. Suit up and meet at the training grounds. The students surged forward, grabbing their cases with eager hands. Izuku lingered, stretching his arms as he rose, his case in hand. He checked his phone, chuckling at Mei's latest message, a chaotic mix of schematics and flirty emojis. Stepping outside, he paused, gazing at the sky. The sun had passed its zenith, its power waning. He removed his glasses, feeling a faint pulse of heat. A pity noon's gone, he murmured. I could have shown them what true strength feels like. With a confident stride, he headed to the changing rooms, ready to face whatever challenge awaited. The training grounds of UA. High-pulsed with anticipation, the air thick with the scent of sweat and metal as Class 1A stood clad in their hero costumes, each design a bold declaration of their ambitions. The sun blazed overhead, casting stark shadows across the mock cityscape. Izuku Midoriya emerged last from the tunnel, his presence a quiet storm. His costume was a masterpiece of Mei Hatsume's craftsmanship. A sleeveless black top hugged his chiseled frame, golden lines tracing from the shoulders to the center, converging at a lion emblem emblazoned on his right arm. Another lion gleamed as his belt buckle, anchoring dark green combat pants tucked into black boots with gleaming metal soles. Without his glasses, his emerald eyes burned with a fierce confidence, his 6 feet 3 inches stature radiating an almost palpable aura of power. The class stared, awestruck. Ochako Uraraka's cheeks flushed, Eijiro Kirishima's grin widened, and even Katsuki Bakugo's scowl faltered for a moment. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Izuku said, his voice steady, a grin flashing across his face. Guess I'm the last to arrive. All Might, in his Silver Age costume, cleared his throat, drawing attention back to the task. Today's lesson is battle training. 2-on-2 indoor battles, heroes versus villains. Heroes have 10 minutes to capture both villains or secure the bomb. Villains must defend the bomb, defeat the heroes, or outlast the clock. He reached for a box to draw teams, but Izuku's voice cut through the air like a blade. I'll go alone, he declared, his tone unyielding. I don't need anyone getting in my way. All Might hesitated, his eyes meeting Izuku's. The raw disdain in that gaze, directed solely at him, chilled the no. One hero. Memories of their rooftop encounter flashed, and All Might nodded, conceding. Very well, young Midoriya. Whispers rippled through the class, uncertainty, curiosity, doubt, but Izuku stood unfazed, his focus razor sharp. The matchups were announced. Izuku Midoriya, Team A, Hero vs. Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Iida, Team D, Villains. Shoto Todoroki and Mezzo Shoji, Team B vs. Mashirao Ojiro and Toru Hagakure, Team I. Fumikage Tokiyami and Tsuyu Asui, Team H vs. Eijiro Kirishima, Minoru Mineta and Hontasiro, Team J. Denki Kaminari and Kyoka Jiro, Team G vs. Momo Yaoyorozu and Ochako Uraraka, Team C. Yuga Aoyama and Mina Ishido, Team E vs. Rikido Sato and Koji Koda, Team F. Izuku faced the towering mock building where Bakugo and Iida waited. The rest of the class followed All Might to the observation room, monitors flickering to life as they settled to watch. Izuku stood motionless, his posture relaxed but his mind racing. Bakugo will come for me directly, his pride demands it. Iida will stay with the bomb, playing defense. Neutralize Bakugo fast, then hunt Iida. Simple enough. Asterisk. Begin. All Might's voice boomed through the speakers. Izuku moved with deliberate calm, ducking under the low doorway into the building. He bypassed the first floor, too obvious for the bomb, and ascended to the second, his boots echoing faintly. The corridors were dim, lined with concrete and steel, a labyrinth designed to test strategy. Halfway through the second floor, a corner exploded in a blinding flash of light and heat. Bakugo rounded it, his gauntlets sparking, a manic grin splitting his face. Take this, Deku, he roared, unleashing a massive explosion that engulfed the hallway in fire and smoke. The blast shook the walls, but when the haze cleared, Izuku stood untouched, his costume singed but his body unscathed. He tilted his head, a faint frown creasing his brow. Was that supposed to hurt? His voice was calm, almost bored, but it carried a weight that made Bakugo's eyes widen. "You bastard!" Bakugo snarled, launching another explosion, bigger this time, the force rattling the building's frame. Izuku didn't flinch, standing firm as the flames washed over him, leaving only faint scorch marks on his pants. Bakugo charged for a third attack, his right gauntlet glowing, but Izuku moved with blinding speed. His hand shot out, seizing Bakugo's wrist and redirecting the blast upward, shattering the ceiling in a shower of debris. Before Bakugo could react, Izuku hoisted him off the ground by his wrist, his strength effortless. "You're predictable, Katsuki," he said, his voice low, laced with disdain. With his free hand, he delivered a devastating uppercut to Bakugo's solar plexus. The impact was thunderous, the air itself seeming to crack. Bakugo lurched forward, retching, his breath stolen. Izuku didn't pause, releasing his wrist only to land a straight cross to Bakugo's jaw, sending him hurtling down the hallway like a ragdoll. Bakugo crashed into the wall, the concrete splintering under the force. He struggled to his knees, gasping, his vision swimming. Blood trickled from his lip, and his pride burned hotter than his explosions. Izuku stalked forward, his boots clicking against the floor, each step deliberate. "How does it feel, Katsuki?" he asked, his voice cutting through the haze. "To be weaker than someone else. That helplessness, that despair, it's what I endured every day you mocked me, every time you called me quirkless. How does it feel to be on the receiving end?" Bakugo staggered to his feet, panting, his crimson eyes blazing with defiance. "I don't give a damn about your power, Deku. I'm still better than you." He craned his neck to meet Izuku's gaze, his bravado faltering under the weight of that unyielding stare. Izuku's lips curled into a cold smile. "You always said heroes win. So what happens when I defeat you today? Does that make you the Deku now?" Bakugo's gauntlet flashed, the grenade chamber glowing ominously. His laughter was hysterical, edged with desperation. "Get ready, Deku. These gauntlets store my sweat for an explosion bigger than anything I've ever done. I'm gonna kill you." He aimed the gauntlet, his finger hovering over the pin. All Might's voice crackled through the comms, urgent. "Young Bakugo, stop. That could seriously injure him. He won't die if he dodges." Bakugo snapped, yanking the pin. The hallway erupted in a cataclysmic blast, a torrent of fire and force that shook the building to its foundations. Windows shattered, walls buckled, and smoke choked the air. Bakugo panted, his laughter echoing as the dust settled. "How's that, Deku?" The smoke parted with a single sweep of Izuku's arm, revealing him standing tall, his costume tattered but his body unmarked. "Seriously, that was your best?" His voice was laced with mockery, his eyes glinting with an almost divine confidence. "Since you used a ranged attack, I'll humor you with one of my own. But you won't withstand it." Izuku raised his hand, fingers splayed, and the air around him shimmered with heat. A sphere of light formed, 3 feet wide, pulsating like a miniature sun. "Cruel sun," he intoned, his voice resonating with power. He thrust his hand forward, and the orb rocketed toward Bakugo, who stood frozen, his bravado crumbling. The impact was apocalyptic. Floors, walls, and ceilings disintegrated in a blinding flash, the shockwave reverberating through the training ground. Bakugo was hurled backward, his body slamming into a collapsed wall, unconscious before he hit the ground. The observation room was silent, the class gaping at the monitors. Ochako's hands covered her mouth, Hiroshima's eyes were wide, and even All Might's smile faltered, his mind racing. "That power, it's beyond anything I've seen. Asterisk. 2-minute warning." All Might's voice broke the silence, strained with shock. Izuku didn't hesitate. He sprinted up the stairwell, covering the 3rd floor in seconds, his senses sharp. The 4th floor opened into a vast chamber, where Tenya Iida stood before the bomb, his engines revving. "You've arrived, hero," Iida declared, his voice steady but his eyes wary. "I only need to hold you off for a minute, and victory is ours." Izuku's gaze was unflinching, his steps slow and deliberate as he advanced. "I'm ending this now," he said, his voice calm but absolute. Iida braced himself, engines flaring as he prepared to charge. "How will you?" His words cut off as Izuku moved, a blur of speed that defied comprehension. The air crackled with heat as he shot past Iida, his hand brushing the bomb before Iida could react. The contact triggered the win condition, and All Might's voice boomed, "Heroes win." Iida froze, his helmeted head turning in disbelief. Izuku turned to him, his expression softening slightly. "Forgive me, Iida, but fighting you would have been pointless. All I needed was to pass you." His voice carried a quiet pride, tempered by sincerity. He slipped his glasses back on, his height shrinking slightly, and extended a hand. No hard feelings. Iida removed his helmet, his shock giving way to respect. He took Izuku's hand, shaking it firmly. "You're formidable, Midoriya. Well played." A grin spread across his face, mirrored by Izuku's own. As they exited the building, the class's eyes followed Izuku, a mix of awe and fear in their gazes. Bakugo, now conscious but battered, was carried out by recovery drones, his pride shattered. In the observation room, All Might's mind churned. That wasn't a quirk, or was it? What is he? Izuku, unaware of the scrutiny, walked toward the support department, his thoughts on Mei and their shared project. The sun dipped lower, but the heat in his chest burned steady, a promise of greater battles to come. He was no longer the quirkless boy, he was a lion, and his roar would echo through UA. The sun's rays danced across the pristine sands of Dagoba Beach, white as fresh snow, each grain glistening as waves of saltwater lapped gently at the shore. Izuku Midoriya ran along the coastline, his boots sinking slightly with each powerful stride, the rhythm of his steps a steady drumbeat against the morning's quiet. His glasses caught the sunlight, reflecting glints of gold as he moved, his shirtless torso absorbing the warmth, fueling the fire within him. The beach, once a wasteland he'd restored, was now a haven, a place to clear his mind after the chaos of UA's early days. His thoughts drifted to All Might, the so-called symbol of peace, whose hollow congratulations after the battle training had grated against Izuku's pride. The man's attempt to question him later had been met with a glare that silenced the hero, Izuku's glasses discarded, his words burning hotter than the sun itself. Now, as he jogged, he sighed, gazing at the horizon where the sun climbed higher, its light amplifying the heat in his chest. It won't be long until Mei finishes the weapon, he mused. I wonder what gift she'd like, flowers, maybe. Or something unique, like her. And Ochako, am I turning into some kind of player? The thought made him chuckle, but the sight of the time on his phone snapped him back. His mother was cooking something special tonight, a rare treat made from scratch. With a jog that blurred into a sprint, he left the beach, eager to see Inko's creation. The next day, Izuku sat on a bus, his head resting against the window, eyes closed as the hum of the engine lulled him into thought. Class 1A was en route to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, USJ, for rescue training, an off-campus exercise to hone their skills. His mind replayed the past few days, each moment a step in his ascent. After his crushing victory over Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Iida in the battle training, Izuku had returned to the observation room, Iida at his side. All Might's professional praise rang hollow, and Izuku sidestepped him, his disdain barely concealed. When asked who the MVP was, Momo Yaoyorozu raised her hand, her analysis sharp. Iida, for his teamwork and dedication to protecting the bomb. Bakugo abandoned his post, and Midoriya, while victorious, could have bypassed the fight with his speed. Iida beamed, grateful, and Izuku patted his shoulder with a genuine smile. Well said, Yaoyorozu. The rest of the battles unfolded, some lopsided, others fiercely contested. Shoto Todoroki's ice had dominated, a display that lingered in Izuku's mind as he considered the boy's quiet intensity. The day ended with All Might bolting from the room, his time limit up, earning a chuckle from Izuku. The next day, Aizawa announced the election for class president and vice president. Izuku won with 5 votes, Momo with 3, and Iida with 2, making Izuku president and Momo vice president. At lunch, Izuku confided in Iida, I voted for you. The admission startled Iida and Ochako, who sat nearby. Strength alone doesn't make a leader, Izuku explained, his voice steady. Iida's robotic arm gestures and heartfelt response, you're more a leader than you realize, Midoriya, drew a laugh from Izuku. Then chaos erupted. An alarm blared, signaling a breach by the media. The cafeteria descended into panic, students stampeding toward the exits. Izuku and Iida exchanged a glance, a silent agreement. Izuku handed his glasses to Iida and stepped forward, removing them. His body swelled, steam rising as heat flooded the room, and oppressive pressure halting the crowd. His footsteps echoed like thunder, each one radiating power. The students turned, fear flickering in their eyes as they faced Izuku, his 6 feet 3 inches frame towering, his gaze burning with authority. "Is this you or a preschool?" he demanded, his voice a deep rumble that silenced the chaos. "How dare you show so little pride as students of this prestigious school? Where's your dignity, your drive to rise above who you were? Be proud, be bold, and make something of yourselves. Stop acting like children and return to the cafeteria, orderly." His words cut through the panic. Strangers complied, awed by his presence, while his classmates nodded in respect. Back in the classroom, Izuku proposed a revote, wondering if his display had swayed opinions. Instead, his votes surged, nearly the entire class backing him. He sighed, folding his arms. "Your pride made the right choice. As your president, I thank you." Claps followed, and he flashed Ochako a smile that left her blushing, her heart fluttering as he took his seat, glasses back on. The bus jolted, pulling Izuku from his reverie. "Izuku," a voice called. He turned to see Tsuyu Asui, her frog-like features calm but curious. "Ribbit, call me Sue. I'm blunt, so I'll just say it. Your quirk looks like a mix of strength and heat, like All Might or Endeavor." The bus went quiet, all eyes on Izuku, especially Bakugo's, burning with suspicion. Izuku's frown flickered, his pride bristling even through his glasses, but he forced a small smile. "If I can call you Sue, you can call me Izuku. That goes for everyone." He glanced around, his gaze steady. "As for my quirk, it's not like All Might's or Endeavor's. It's a blend of my parents, my father's fire breath, my mother's attraction of small objects. I call it sunshine. It stockpiles solar energy, amplifying my physical abilities and letting me wield heat-based attacks. Like fat gum with fat, I store sunlight and unleash it. Our outputs might seem similar, but mine's unique." His lie was seamless, though it churned his stomach. The class relaxed, satisfied, and Aizawa announced their arrival. They stepped off the bus, facing a massive dome structure, the USJ. Inside, diverse climates sprawled. A flood zone, a landslide area, a burning cityscape. "Welcome to the unforeseen simulation joint," Aizawa said, his voice flat. 13, the space-suited hero, greeted them, explaining the exercise, rescue training to master their quirks in crisis scenarios. She signaled Aizawa, a subtle gesture about All Might's absence that only Izuku caught. He shrugged it off as 13 spoke about the dual nature of quirks, dangerous yet capable of good in the right hands. A black mist swirled at the plaza below, catching Izuku's eye. "Aizawa, we have a problem," he said, his voice low. The class turned, gasping as dozens of villains emerged from the mist, led by 3 figures, a misty humanoid named Kurogiri, a hulking bird-like creature, and a pale, hand-covered figure radiating menace. 13, evacuate the students, Aizawa ordered, leaping down the stairs, his capture scarf unfurling. Izuku's mind raced. Aizawa's an assassin, not a frontline fighter. This won't end well. He stayed put as his classmates retreated, his instincts screaming to act. Kurogiri appeared before them, his voice smooth. "Greetings, hero hopefuls. I am Kurogiri of the League of Villains. Our mission is to kill All Might. You are inconsequential." Bakugo and Kirishima lunged, their attacks fierce but futile as Kurogiri dodged, warping them through portals. Others followed, scattered across the USJ's zones. Izuku stood still, his gaze locked on Kurogiri. Cannon fodder, he thought, deeming the villain no threat. As president, his duty was to his classmates. He let the portal engulf him, ready to protect those who needed him, the heat of his pride burning brighter than ever. The portal's dark maw spat Izuku Midoriya into the air above the flood zone of the unforeseen simulation joint, USJ, a vast expanse of water shimmering under the dome's artificial light. He plummeted toward the surface, his glasses glinting as the sun's filtered rays fueled the heat in his chest. No panic stirred within him, he knew his body could withstand the impact. With a resounding splash, he plunged into the depths, the cold water a fleeting shock against his skin. He surfaced quickly, shaking droplets from his hair, and scanned his surroundings. Shadows moved beneath the waves, Villains, their forms adapted for aquatic combat, circling like predators. A shark-like villain, his jagged teeth gleaming, surged forward, fins slicing through the water. Izuku's calm held firm. Panic was a death sentence. As the villain closed in, jaws snapping, Izuku summoned the power within, his muscles swelling, his height inching upward as steam curled from his skin. With a single, precise strike, he slammed his fist into the shark man's snout, the force reverberating through the water. The villain rocketed backward, carving a path through the waves, crashing dozens of meters away, dazed and drifting. Before Izuku could press the advantage, a green blur darted through the water, dispatching two more villains with swift, fluid strikes. Tsuyu Asui emerged, her frog-like form cutting through the current. Her tongue lashed out, wrapping around Izuku's waist. He cancelled his power surge, shrinking slightly to avoid burning her with his heat, making himself lighter for her to handle. With a powerful flick, she launched him skyward. He soared, spotting a stranded ship in the flood zone's center, and landed with a thud that rocked the deck. Moments later, another impact echoed, Minoru Mineta, groaning as he hit the deck, followed by Tsuyu, who climbed aboard with agile grace. Izuku met Tsuyu's gaze, his glasses back on, tempering his pride. "Thank you for the assist, Tsu. Water's not my strongest domain." "Ribbit. Don't mention it," she replied, her eyes scanning the water where villains regrouped, their forms bobbing menacingly. "But we're outnumbered. We need a plan." Before Izuku could respond, Mineta's wails cut through the air. "We're gonna die. I haven't even become a chick magnet yet." His small frame trembled, tears streaming as he clutched his cape. Tsuyu tilted her head. "Are you sure you're in the right class, Mineta?" Mineta's sobs grew louder, but Izuku's patience snapped. He seized Mineta by his cape, lifting him effortlessly to eye level. His glasses came off, tossed aside, and his body swelled, muscles bulging as the lion tattoo on his back glowed faintly through his tattered costume. His eyes blazed, flames dancing within them, a vision of unrelenting pride. "Are you here to be a hero, or a blight upon my sight?" He growled, his voice deep and commanding. "Your pride is but a flickering ember, and it sickens me. Stand tall, or be cast aside." He dropped Mineta, who crumpled to the deck, trembling under the weight of Izuku's gaze. Turning to Tsuyu, he softened slightly, though his authority remained. "You possess all the abilities of a frog, correct?" "Ribbit." "Yeah, why?" she asked, her calm unshaken. "Taking stock of our assets," Izuku said, slipping his glasses back on, his mind racing. A cruel sun could end this, but the collateral damage would be excessive. Mineta's sticky orbs could be useful, but his fear makes him a liability. "We need precision." His eyes lit up with sudden clarity. "I have a plan." Tsuyu nodded, attentive. Mineta, still sniffling, fell silent under Izuku's commanding presence. "What's the strategy?" she asked. "I'll unleash a punch to create a whirlpool, drawing the villains into a single point. Then, I'll use a cruel sun to knock them out cold," Izuku explained, his voice steady but brimming with confidence. Tsuyu frowned. "Ribbit. If they're unconscious in the water, won't they drown?" "Not all of them might breathe underwater." Izuku's lips curved into a faint smirk. "Then I'll evaporate the water entirely. You'll need to grab Mineta and leap as high as you can to avoid the heat." Tsuyu nodded, her trust in him absolute. "Got it." Izuku stepped to the ship's edge, his glasses off once more. He called upon the heat within, his body surging to its full 6 feet 3 inches height, muscles rippling as steam poured from his skin. The air shimmered with pressure, the deck creaking under his weight. "Tsu, the moment I launch the heat attack, grab the coward and jump high," he confirmed, his voice resonant, his gaze piercing. She blushed faintly but nodded, gripping Mineta's arm. Izuku leapt, soaring 70 feet into the air, his body a silhouette against the dome's artificial sky. He floated for a moment, the sun's light amplifying his power. "Who dares stand before me?" he declared, his voice booming like thunder. "Disappear." He drew back his arm, muscles coiling, and unleashed a punch toward the water below. The force was cataclysmic, a shockwave that carved a 30-foot crater in the lake, the water rushing inward to form a violent whirlpool. The villains, caught off guard, were sucked into the vortex, their cries drowned by the churning waves. Izuku raised his hand, a miniature sun forming, half his body's size, pulsating with searing light. Cruel sun, he roared, hurling the orb into the whirlpool's heart. As it descended, he extended his open hand. Flare. The sun erupted, a blinding flash that vaporized the water in an instant, leaving a steaming, empty basin. The villains lay scattered across the exposed lakebed, singed and unconscious, no longer a threat. Izuku glanced back at the ship, where Tsuyu and Mineta were falling, Sue's expression one of controlled panic, Mineta's a high-pitched scream. Chuckling, Izuku launched himself toward them, catching them 30 feet from the ground with effortless grace. He landed softly, setting them down. Tsuyu exhaled, steadying herself. Thanks, Izuku. Mineta, wide-eyed, stared at Izuku as if seeing a god. Izuku ignored him, slipping his glasses back on, his height shrinking slightly but his presence undiminished. He turned to his classmates, his voice carrying the weight of command. Let us ensure our comrades do not perish. Who dares falter when the sun's pride burns within me? Tsuyu nodded, resolute, while Mineta, still trembling, seemed to find a spark of courage in Izuku's words. The lakebed lay barren, the villains defeated, but the battle for the USJ was far from over. Explosions echoed in the distance. Bakugo's work, no doubt, and Izuku's eyes narrowed. Let us show these villains the folly of challenging those who stand tall, he declared, his voice a clarion call. With Tsuyu and Mineta at his side, he charged toward the next fight, a lion ready to protect his pride, his heart ablaze with unyielding resolve. The central plaza of the unforeseen simulation joint, USJ, was a battlefield strewn with the unconscious forms of villains, the air thick with dust and the acrid scent of scorched earth. Izuku Midoriya, Tsuyu Asui, and Minoru Mineta crept toward the plaza, Tsu insisting on stealth despite Izuku's indifference. His glasses were off, his lion tattoo pulsing faintly through his tattered costume, and the heat in his chest burned with unyielding pride. The journey took longer than necessary, but as they emerged from the shadows, the scene before them froze their blood. Most villains lay defeated, but the monstrous Nomu had Shota Aizawa pinned, its massive form looming over the battered teacher. The hand-covered villain, Shigaraki, mocked Aizawa with a sneer, his voice dripping with malice. His eyes flicked to Izuku and Tsu, narrowing with intent. He lunged, his hand outstretched to seize Tsu's face, fingers splayed with deadly promise. Izuku moved in a blur, his hand clamping around Shigaraki's wrist with crushing force. I advise you not to threaten my classmates in my presence, he said, his voice calm but laced with a menace that echoed through the plaza. The threat hung heavy, a silent vow of retribution. Shigaraki sneered, undeterred. Hey, an NPC dares talk back to me. Nomu. The beast moved, a black blur of raw power, its fist aimed at Izuku's face. The impact landed with a thunderous crack, but Izuku didn't budge, his head unmoving, his eyes locked on the creature with cold curiosity. Intriguing, he mused, his voice steady. Its strength and speed rival All Might's. Shigaraki's grin widened, his voice dripping with pride. Of course, Nomu was crafted to kill All Might. Izuku raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. Tsu, Mineta, get Aizawa to safety at the top of the stairs, he ordered, his tone carrying such authority that the two sprang into action without hesitation, scrambling to drag their teacher away. The plaza trembled as the entrance doors exploded inward, revealing All Might, his face devoid of its usual grin. His eyes swept the scene, and in a flash, he dispatched the remaining conscious villains, scooping Aizawa, Tsu, and Mineta into his arms and leaping to the stairs. Tsu's voice cut through the chaos. All Might, Izuku's still down there, fighting a monster meant to kill you. All Might nodded, his expression grim, and descended to Izuku's side in an instant. Young Midoriya, I know you're capable, but I ask you to find your classmates scattered across the USJ. Izuku's gaze met All Might's, his eyes burning with disdain. For a moment, he considered refusing, but his duty as class president prevailed. TCH, fine. It will be done, Faker, he said, his voice dripping with scorn. In a burst of speed that cracked the ground, he vanished, leaving a gust of wind in his wake. The conflagration zone roared with flames, the air shimmering with heat. Izuku surged through the inferno, his costume singed but his body untouched. Masharao Ojiro battled a trio of villains, his tail whipping fiercely. Izuku descended like a meteor, his fist shattering the ground as he landed, sending shockwaves that knocked the villains flat. Ojiro, Head to the plaza stairs. The others are there, he said, his voice calm but commanding. Ojiro nodded, sprinting off as Izuku moved on, the flames parting before his presence. In the mountain zone, Momo Yaoyorozu, Kyoka Jiro, and Denki Kaminari were cornered, their defenses faltering against a single, relentless villain wielding a chain whip quirk. Izuku appeared, his silhouette towering against the rocky backdrop. With a single palm strike, he sent the villain crashing into a boulder, unconscious. To the plaza stairs, he instructed, his tone leaving no room for argument. The trio nodded, gratitude in their eyes, and fled. The landslide zone and ruins zone were empty, the villains already dispatched or fled. In the downpour zone, sheets of rain obscured the air, but Izuku found Fumikage Tokiyami and Koji Koda fending off a pair of water-manipulating villains. Izuku's arrival was a tempest. His fist met one villain's chest, sending him skidding through the mud, while a sweeping kick dropped the other. Plaza stairs, he said, and the two nodded, hurrying off. 3 minutes had passed, and Izuku landed back in the central plaza with a thud that echoed through the dome. All Might grappled with the Nomu, his punches shaking the ground but failing to overpower the beast. Shoto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo, and Eijiro Kirishima watched from a distance, their faces tense. Izuku appeared beside Todoroki, who spared him a glance but said nothing. "What's this, All Might? Weakened in your twilight years?" Izuku called, striding forward, his voice laced with mockery. The pressure he exuded halted the fight, even the Nomu pausing to regard him. "I've secured the others. Since you struggle so, shall I take your place? We both know who holds true power here. Face it, All Might, I surpass you." His words rang with unshakable confidence, freezing the plaza in awe. Shigaraki's thoughts churned. This kid disrespects All Might like he's nothing. Not an NPC, a playable character. Asterisk. Before anyone could respond, the Nomu charged, its fist aimed at Izuku's chest. Izuku met it with his own, their collision sending a shockwave that cracked the plaza's tiles. The beast's eyes widened, sensing a worthy foe. Izuku grinned, his pride ablaze. "Let us dance, creature," he declared, his voice a clarion call of defiance. The Nomu swung again, its speed a blur, but Izuku matched it, parrying with forearms that sparked against the beast's blows. He ducked under a massive haymaker, countering with a knee to the Nomu's gut, the impact rippling through its frame. The beast staggered but lunged again, claws slashing. Izuku spun, dodging by inches, and delivered an uppercut to the Nomu's sternum, the force echoing like thunder. The creature's body rippled, but it stood firm, unfazed. Shigaraki laughed, his voice manic. "Nomu has shock absorption. Every blow you land, it soaks up like a sponge." Izuku's frown deepened, his eyes narrowing. He leapt back, creating distance. "If brute force won't suffice, I'll wield the gift my precious dear crafted for me." He raised his arm, fingers splayed, and made a grabbing motion. For 7 seconds, nothing happened. Shigaraki opened his mouth to mock. Then the ceiling exploded, debris raining down. A gleaming object shot through the air, and Izuku snatched it with effortless precision. In his hand was a massive, one-sided golden battle axe, half his body's length, its blade curled and wicked. The handle, wrapped in dark green, was short, designed for one-handed wielding, with a guard of 4 evenly spaced spikes. Twin spearhead-like blades jutted from the top and opposite side, glinting with menace. The weapon radiated power, its presence silencing the plaza. "This is divine axe Rita," Izuku declared, his voice resonating with pride. "Forged for the lion sin of pride." The Nomu took a step back, its instincts sensing the threat. Shigaraki's laughter faltered, his eyes wide. Todoroki, Bakugo, and Kirishima stared, awestruck, while All Might's jaw tightened. Izuku raised a single finger, his gaze locked on the Nomu. "Hear me, beast, and tremble. Who dares stand against the sun's chosen? I am Izuku Midoriya, the lion sin of pride, and my wrath is unyielding." He charged, Rita swinging in a golden arc. The Nomu roared, meeting the strike with a fist, but the axe's edge bit into its arm, drawing a spray of dark blood. Izuku pressed forward, his movements a blur of precision and power. He spun, slashing Rita across the Nomu's chest, the blade carving deep gashes. The beast howled, retaliating with a barrage of punches, each one shaking the ground. Izuku danced through them, his agility defying the Nomu's speed, and countered with a sweeping strike that sent the creature skidding across the plaza, cracking the concrete. Is this the might meant to fell All Might? Izuku taunted, his voice booming. Pathetic. Who decided you could challenge me? He raised Rita high, the axe glowing with a fiery aura. Sun's judgment, he roared, bringing the blade down in a devastating arc. The impact unleashed a wave of heat and force, scorching the plaza and sending the Nomu crashing through a wall, its body battered but still stirring. Shigaraki screamed in frustration, but Izuku's gaze never wavered. He advanced, Rita resting on his shoulder, his presence a blazing sun amidst the chaos. Flee or fall, villain, he said, his voice low but absolute. For in my presence, none stand equal. The battle was far from over, but Izuku stood as a lion, his pride a beacon, ready to protect his class and shatter any who dared oppose him. This was a gift from my dear sweet benefactor, Izuku said, his voice resonant with pride, and I will use it to achieve my dream. He rested divine axe Rita on his shoulder, striding toward the Nomu. The beast, sensing the threat, advanced, stopping 5 feet away, their gazes locked, Izuku's inquisitive, the Nomu's blank. Ha ha ha, you think you can take on Nomu? That's pretty funny, Shigaraki laughed, his voice manic. Izuku turned, his eyes narrowing. I haven't caught your name. What would it be? Tamura Shigaraki, kid. Not that it'll matter, Shigaraki replied, chuckling. Izuku's lips curled into a savage grin, and he let out a bellowing laugh that echoed through the plaza, a sound of untamed pride. A fitting name for a fleeting foe. In an instant, he swung Rita with blinding speed, the blade slicing through the Nomu's midsection, cleaving it in half above the waist. The creature collapsed like a marionette with severed strings, its halves thudding to the ground. The plaza fell silent, the class atop the stairs gaping, All Might's eyes wide, and Bakugo's fists trembling with suppressed rage. One strike, Izuku mused, turning to Shigaraki. I overestimated your beast. Is this the best you offer? If so, flee now, for none can stand before the sun's chosen. You cheater, Shigaraki ranted, scratching his neck furiously. You're nothing but a cheater. Kurogiri's voice cut through. Tamura Shigaraki, calm yourself. Shock absorption isn't its only quirk. The words froze the plaza, Izuku raising a curious eyebrow. Hey, you're right, Kurogiri, Shigaraki said, his panic subsiding. Why worry? Look, Nomu's fixing itself. A grotesque gurgling filled the air as muscle strands snaked from the Nomu's upper half, reconnecting with its lower body. Within moments, the creature stood whole, roaring with renewed vigor. Nomu has hyper-regeneration, Shigaraki boasted. Now, kill the cheater. The Nomu charged, its arm raised. Izuku swung Rita, severing the limb at the shoulder, the blade flashing gold. The creature's head snapped as Izuku followed with a brutal kick to its chest, disrupting its shock absorption and sending it skidding back. He considered another swing but paused. Carving it to pieces would make me seem a savage, but I'd like to test its limits with Rita's might until then. He turned to All Might. Hold this, he said, tossing the axe. All Might fumbled, catching it but nearly buckling under its weight. It's heavy. Keep it in sight, Izuku instructed, turning back to the regenerated Nomu. The two clashed, a tempest of power. The Nomu's blows were relentless, each punch a shockwave, but Izuku met them head-on with ease until he decided to use Rita, retrieved in a flash from All Might. He swung the axe in sweeping arcs, each strike a golden blur that carved gashes across the Nomu's chest. The beast roared, its wounds closing, and countered with a flurry of claws. Izuku spun, Rita's spearhead blades slashing the Nomu's flank, drawing dark blood. Is this your might? He taunted, his voice booming. Who dares challenge the lion's pride? The Nomu lunged, its speed blinding, but Izuku parried with Rita's guard, the spikes catching the beast's fist. He twisted, bringing the axe's main blade down, slicing through the Nomu's shoulder. The creature staggered, regenerating, and Izuku pressed the assault, his laughter savage and unrestrained. Ha, you think to stand against me? Foolish beast. He swung Rita in a diagonal arc, the blade biting deep into the Nomu's torso, sending it crashing into a pillar, which crumbled under the impact. Shigaraki cackled. Nomu absorbs all you throw. It'll heal anything you do. You're done for. Izuku's eyes narrowed, his laughter fading to a cold smirk. My attacks have no effect. Who decided that? This monster will kill me. Who decided that? He raised his right arm, pointing skyward with a single finger. The air shimmered, and a sun formed, as large as his body, radiating searing heat and pressure that pressed against every soul in the plaza. Just what is this kid? All Might thought, sweat beading on his brow. Shigaraki's mind screamed, a secret boss. Asterisk. Now, cruel sun. Izuku roared, the sun blazing brighter, hotter, its light blinding. I alone decide my fate. He thrust his hand forward, launching the orb at the Nomu. The creature raised its arms to block, but the sun engulfed it, scorching its flesh as it skidded back, propelled by the force. Izuku raised Rita, channeling his power into the axe. Sun's judgment, he bellowed, swinging the blade downward. A wave of heat and force erupted, merging with the cruel sun, and the Nomu was launched skyward, smashing through the ceiling in a shower of debris. The sun carried it higher, out of sight, its roars fading into silence. Izuku stood, unyielding, not a hint of fatigue on him. He turned to Shigaraki and Kurogiri, Rita resting on his shoulder. Your ace is gone. Do you wish to continue? His voice was calm, almost casual, as if discussing the weather, yet it carried a weight that silenced the plaza. Bakugo fumed, his pride battered, while Todoroki and Kirishima stared in awe. You, what are you? Shigaraki screamed, his voice cracking. You were supposed to be an NPC, dead in seconds. You're a goddamn secret boss. Izuku tilted his head, amused. Secret boss. Video game logic, I don't play much, but I understand. You see me as a hidden challenge, revealed by your folly. Fitting. He stepped forward, Rita gleaming. Know this, Shigaraki. I am the lion sin of pride, and none may stand equal in my presence. A gunshot rang out, and Shigaraki collapsed, clutching his leg, then his arm, as Snipe's bullets found their mark. Kurogiri warped to his side, enveloping him in mist, and they vanished. Izuku glanced up, seeing Snipe and the other teachers at the plaza's edge. Backup's here, he said, striding to All Might. He retrieved Rita, resting it on his shoulder. We should join the others, he told Kirishima, who nodded with a grin. Bakugo fumed, arms crossed, but followed. Todoroki gave a curt nod and trailed behind. As the group ascended the stairs, Izuku paused, his gaze locking on All Might. Are you so frail that your true self will soon be revealed, All Might? He asked, his voice low, cutting. Without waiting for a reply, he turned, striding toward his classmates, who fell silent under his towering presence. He approached Ochako, who held his glasses, her face flushed. With a gentle smile, he lifted her onto his shoulder, her squeak of surprise drawing a chuckle. Let's ensure our pride remains unbroken, he said, his voice resonant, as he led his class forward, a lion among heroes, his axe a symbol of his unyielding will. Tamura Shigaraki stumbled through the portal, collapsing onto the grimy floor of a dimly lit room, groaning as pain lanced through his bullet wounds. Blood seeped from his leg and arm, staining the concrete. Across the room, a TV monitor flickered, a distorted voice emanating from it, cold and calculating. By the wounds you bear and the absence of the Nomu, I assume it was defeated. Sensei, Tamura rasped, his voice thick with frustration, you're right. The Nomu was beaten, not by All Might, but by a secret boss. His words dripped with venom, his hands twitching as if to scratch away his failure. The voice paused, a rare note of surprise creeping in. Really? Describe this person. This kid was taller, almost bigger like All Might, stronger, too. He wielded a massive axe and unleashed a fire attack that obliterated the Nomu. But what stood out most was his disrespect for All Might. Called him old, weak, claimed he was stronger. Tamura's voice grew heated, his fingers clawing at his neck. The sensei's mind churned, caught off guard. I assumed it would be All Might's successor, but disrespecting him and using heat-based attacks. That's not my brother's quirk. His successor wouldn't scorn him. What did the boy look like? Bushy dark green and black hair, shining green eyes, freckles on his face, Tamura said. All Might called him Midoriya, might be his last name. Good, Tamura, your failure is a lesson. You'll rebuild, grow stronger. Heal up, we'll talk later. The feed cut, leaving silence. The sensei leaned back, a grin spreading across his shadowed face. A hero hopeful who surpasses all might and disdains him. A new piece on the board, one I can bend to my will, willingly or not. His smug laughter echoed in the dark. This is the follow-up report on yesterday's incident at the UA Rescue Training Facility, where hero course students were attacked by villains, a news reporter announced, her voice steady as images of the USJ flashed across screens nationwide. These criminals, calling themselves the League of Villains, plotted to kill All Might, who has been a teacher at UA since spring. Citizens paused in the streets, eyes glued to massive displays broadcasting the news. That night, under a canopy of stars, Izuku Midoriya lay on a beach towel at Dagoba Beach, the waves whispering against the shore. He bit into a sweet pastry, its warmth a faint echo of the heat in his chest. His hand rested in Mei Hatsume's pink dreadlocks, her head nestled against him, her eyes half closed in contentment. Izuku chuckled, feeling the moon's faint glow stir a familiar fire within him, a mirror to the sun's power. He shifted closer, letting Mei bask in his warmth, their quiet intimacy a shield against the world's chaos. The next day, in UA's meeting room, Detective Tsukauchi briefed the faculty. The police investigated the League of Villains. No one named Shigaraki in his 20s or 30s is registered with a disintegration quirk, nor is there a Kurogiri with a warp gate. They're likely using aliases, possibly not even citizens. When Shigaraki's wounds heal, they'll strike again. A pain in the ass, Snipe, the cowboy-hatted teacher, grumbled. Their ringleader, All Might muttered, drawing Nezu's attention. What is it, All Might? The principal asked. It was a bold attack, one normal people wouldn't dare attempt. Shigaraki rambled wildly, didn't reveal his quirk, but bragged about Nomu's. When things went south, he lost it. The quirk display was meant to force my hand, but All Might trailed off. Foolish to squander the advantage of unknown quirks against heroes, Nezu said, Tsukauchi nodding. He made childish claims with a straight face, All Might added. Thought everything would go his way. The picture I get is a man-child, clinging to a childish sense of omnipotence. A child with power, a teacher with an X-shaped scar asked. Perhaps he never got quirk counseling in school, Midnight suggested. What's that got to do with it? Snipe pressed. There were 72 villains arrested at USJ, all small-time thugs from back alleys, Tsukauchi said. The issue is how they rallied behind this man-child. In a hero-saturated world, oppressed villains may be drawn to his simplistic evil. Plenty of people don't know what to do with their quirks, Snipe noted. Alarming, Midnight sighed. Thanks to you heroes, we can focus on our investigation, Tsukauchi said. We'll expand our search and assist in arrests. A man-child, Nezu mused, catching All Might's eye. In some ways, like our students. Someone is cultivating his malice. I don't want to think what could happen, All Might thought. UA reopened, and Class 1A settled into their classroom, the buzz of the USJ incident lingering. Hey, did you watch the news last night? Toru Hagakuri asked Mezzo Shoji and Mashirao Ojiro. They nodded. Everyone in class was on screen for a second. I didn't stand out at all. That's true, Shoji agreed. Ojiro flinched, picturing the girls of 1A. Hard to stand out like that, huh? No big deal, Denki Kaminari said to Eijiro Kirishima. Just news channels hyping it up. I was surprised, Kirishima admitted. Can't blame them, Kyoka Jiro said. The hero course that churns out pros got attacked. Who knows what would have happened without the teachers, Honta Siro sighed. Stop that, Siro, it's making me wet myself, Minoru Mineta yelped, jumping in his seat. Shut up, scum, Katsuki Bakugo roared. Would you all silence yourselves for a moment? Izuku's voice cut through, calm but edged with irritation, his glasses on but his aura heavy. The class froze, sensing his foul mood. Why the hell should I listen to you, Deku? Bakugo snarled. In a flash, Izuku's hand shot out, his fist stopping inches from Bakugo's face, the air crackling with heat. Sweat beaded on Bakugo's forehead, his eyes wide. Test my patience, and you will see the consequences, Izuku said, his voice low, a promise of power. He withdrew his hand, leaving Bakugo shaken. Everyone, morning homeroom is about to start. Take your seats, Tenya Iida shouted from the front. We're seated. You're not, Shiro quipped. Iida sat, fists shaking. Shoot. Don't worry about it, Ochako soothed, her gaze flickering to Izuku with concern. Sue, who's teaching homeroom? Mina Ishido asked, leaning back until she nearly fell, Sue catching her. The door slid open, revealing Aizawa, swathed in bandages. Morning, he muttered. Aizawa-sensei, you're back too soon. The class exclaimed. You're too much of a pro. Kaminari said, horrified, while Kirishima nodded approval. Are you really all right? Iida asked, raising his hand. Can you call that all right? Ochako whispered. Forcing yourself to teach is illogical, sensei, Izuku said, his glasses softening his warm aura, which eased the room's tension. My well-being doesn't matter, Aizawa said, reaching the podium. More importantly, the fight isn't over yet. Fight, Bakugo smirked. Don't tell me, Izuku muttered. Villains again, Mineta squeaked. The UA Sports Festival is drawing near, Aizawa announced. That's a supernormal school event. The class shouted. Kirishima echoed, a supernormal, before Kaminari covered his mouth. Is it wise so soon after the attack? Jiro asked. What if they strike again? Ojiro added. The administration believes it shows the threat is handled, Aizawa said. Securities increased. This is a huge opportunity for you all, not something we cancel for a failed villain attack. Why not? It's just a festival, Mineta whined. Izuku turned, his gaze sharp. Mineta, don't you know the sports festival's importance? Of course, I just don't want to die. Mineta yelped, sweating. The UA Sports Festival is Japan's most watched event, Aizawa said, cutting them off. Top heroes will scout you. It's #1 for viewership. Top heroes watch, Momo agreed. You can get scouted, unless you're dead, Mineta retorted. She's right, Kaminari said. Sidekick gigs after graduation come from this. But some stay sidekicks forever, Jiro teased. Like you, maybe. You're kinda dumb. Ow. Kaminari pouted. Scouting means experience and popularity, Aizawa said. This festival opens doors. 1 chance a year, 3 in a lifetime. No aspiring hero can miss it. Don't slack in training. Clear. Yes, sir. The class chorused. Hours later, after Smintas's modern literature class, the lunch bell rang. Class 1A buzzed about the sports festival, some excited, others nervous. I'm pumped, Kirishima exclaimed. We're practically pros if we shine. Shiro grinned. It's why we're here, Rikido Sato said, punching his palm. We get few chances. We must seize this, Fumikage Tokiyami agreed. I'm jealous, Shoji. Your quirk's unique, Kaminari sighed. Usefulness matters more than flash, Shoji replied. You'll make a scene anyway. Jiro snickered at Kaminari, who grumbled. Their excitement shows they'll give their all, Izuku said, clenching his fist. A playful smack hit his shoulder, and he chuckled, turning to see Ochako's mischievous eyes. Let's do our best, Izuku, she said, smiling. He grabbed her waist, pulling her onto his lap, her blush deepening. Yes, let's do our best, he said with a smirk. Ochako leapt up, her competitive fire reignited. Everyone, I'm gonna do my best, she shouted, a pink aura of determination flaring as she punched the air. Yeah, several students echoed, fists raised. I said I'm gonna do my best, Ochako repeated, her enthusiasm infectious. Ochako-chan, you okay? Sue asked, head tilted. At lunch, Izuku and Mei found a quiet courtyard spot, sitting under a tree's shade, their meals from the cafeteria spread out. They shared bites, their closeness drawing eyes. Upper-year girls cooed at the sight, other couples mirroring their intimacy on the clear day. They're so adorable, a blue-haired third-year gushed, sitting with friends. So cute. Calm down and eat, her red-headed friend smiled. I heard the greenette fought the most at USJ, a muscular blonde teen said, swallowing his food. He's gotta be strong. I can't imagine fighting villains in my first month, a navy-haired teen sighed, a dark cloud seeming to hover over him. Hey, none of that. The blue-haired girl sparkled. You're a third year, past that point, right? How's a top 3 student such a downer? The redhead teased. Izuku heard them, his enhanced senses catching every word, but his focus was Mei. She leaned closer, kissing him softly. He accepted with grace, wrapping his arms around her, resting his head atop hers, their warmth a shared sanctuary. That evening, Izuku returned to Dagoba Beach, the waves lapping gently under a starlit sky. He sat on a towel, his glasses off, the lion tattoo faintly glowing as he gazed at the ocean. The moon's light stirred a quiet heat within him, a softer echo of the sun's fire. He exhaled, calm, his pride tempered but ever present. Who dares challenge the night when the lion's heart burns eternal? He murmured, a faint smile playing on his lips. The world awaited his next move, but for now, he was content, a king at rest, his resolve unshaken. As the bell rang, signaling the end of the day's last class, Class 1A began packing their belongings, the room filled with the rustle of bags and chatter. A few students paused, catching a muffled sound from the hallway. Ochako Uraraka opened the door to leave and froze. A corridor packed with students from other classes stared back, their eyes fixed on Class 1A. "Why the heck are you all here?" Ochako exclaimed, gawking at the horde. "Do you all have some kind of business with our class?" Tenya Iida questioned, stepping forward. "Why are you blocking our doorway? Are you trying to hold us hostage?" Minoru Mineta demanded, his voice shrill. "They're scouting out the competition, idiots," Katsuki Bakugo sneered, striding to the door. "We're the class that got attacked by real villains. They want to see us with their own eyes." A few Class 1A students bristled at Bakugo's abrasive tone. Ochako frowned. Mineta pointed at him, gaping, while Izuku Midoriya shook his head, exasperated. "Typical Bakugo. Asterisk. Well, at least now you all know what a future pro looks like," Bakugo declared, glaring at the crowd. "Now move it, extras." "Really?" Izuku thought, resigned to Bakugo's permanent attitude. "You can't just call people extras, because you don't know them, Bakugo." Iida admonished, chopping the air with his arm. "So this is Class 1A. A purple-haired student said, pushing through the crowd. "I heard you survived a real villain attack. But you just sound like an ass." He locked eyes with Bakugo, unflinching. "Is everyone in the hero course delusional, or just you?" "Huh," Bakugo growled, a vein pulsing on his forehead. Class 1A waved frantically, trying to diffuse the tension before Bakugo exploded. "How sad to find a bunch of egomaniacs," the purple-haired teen continued, rubbing his neck, his wild hair shifting. "I wanted to be in the hero course, but like many here, I was forced to another track. Such is life." Bakugo's anger visibly mounted. "I didn't cut it the first time, but now I have another chance. If any of us do well in the sports festival, the teachers can move us to the hero course. That means transferring some of you out." Several 1A students stiffened at the reminder. "Tisk." Bakugo looked ready to snap. "Scouting the competition. Maybe some of my peers are, but I'm here to say, if you don't bring your best, I'll steal your spot right from under you. Consider this a declaration of war." His voice was calm but resolute. "I didn't put in extra work before and after the entrance exams to lose to anyone not serious about being a hero. Where'd this guy come from?" Class 1A thought collectively. "Hey, I'm from Class 1B. Another voice shouted, a teen with messy, chin-length gray hair and jagged, tan eyelashes pushing forward. "We heard you were attacked by villains. I wanted to see what was up, but you're just a bunch of punks who think you're better than us. Damn it, everyone's gonna hate our class now." Several 1A students groaned internally. "That's a rather brash claim, isn't it?" Izuku stepped forward, heat simmering beneath his glasses. "When did any of us say we thought we were better than you, exactly?" "Huh," the gray-haired teen blinked, caught off guard. "You said we think we're better than your class, right?" Izuku met his eyes, unyielding. "I'm curious how you reached that conclusion, since none of us said anything except Bakugo being his usual abrasive self." Well, the teen fumbled, murmurs rippling through the crowd. The purple-haired student raised an eyebrow at Izuku. "You jumped to conclusions and made up your own mind," Ochako said, standing close to Izuku. Yeah," the gray-haired teen rubbed his head, sheepish. "That was my bad. I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions. I'm Tetsu from Class 1B. I wanted to see Class 1A, but I lost my cool after hearing the blonde guy run his mouth." "It's fine. Bakugo has a way of pissing off everyone when he opens his mouth," Ochako said with a mirthless chuckle. "Fuck off," Bakugo shouted, stomping through the crowd. Oh no, I made him upset, Ochako said, feigning concern poorly. Izuku placed a hand on her head, calming her with a smile. Huh, maybe you aren't all full of yourselves, the purple-haired teen said with a sigh. But my declaration of war stands. I will get into the hero course. One of those 40 seats will be mine by the festival's end. He turned and walked away, the crowd dispersing. Well, that was different, Mina Ishido said, the tension in Class 1A easing as they grabbed their bags and left. Izuku was silent on the walk, prompting Mei Hatsume to pinch his cheek. What's on your mind? She asked. Rubbing his face, Izuku's eyes gleamed. I'm just looking forward to the competition. Thinking about it has my blood royally boiling with excitement. The next 2 weeks saw hero course students, and those aiming for it, training relentlessly. UA's gym and track buzzed with activity, a yearly ritual that amused the teachers, except Aizawa, who rolled his eyes, struggling to sip coffee through his bandages, his colleagues chuckling. Beginning of the sports festival. Man, I really wanted to wear my costume, Mina complained in Class 1A's waiting room, all in standard UA gym uniforms. It's to keep things fair, Mina, Momo Yaoyorozu reminded her. Other classes don't have costumes, so uniforms level the field, aside from quirk advantages. I wonder what the first round is this year. Rikido Sato mused, fidgeting to quell nerves. The anticipation's the worst. It doesn't matter what comes. We must face the organizers' challenges, Fumikage Tokiyami said, arms crossed, eyes closed. He's right. We show we can handle anything, like true heroes, Mezzo Shoji agreed, seated at a table. Is everybody ready? We'll enter the stadium soon, Iida announced, watching the clock. The class stood, ready to prove themselves. Todoroki approached Izuku, who was chatting with Ochako, her playful punches met with his smirks. Midoriya, Todoroki said. Izuku turned, the class watching the two strongest students. What's up, Todoroki? Izuku asked. Objectively, you and I are the strongest here. You're likely stronger than me, Todoroki said bluntly, ignoring the class's gasps. Bakugo bristled, nearly shouting. What about it? Izuku asked, eyebrow raised. Regardless of your power, I will beat you, Todoroki declared. The room froze, shocked by the quiet teen's bold words. Didn't see this coming, Kaminari blinked, glancing between them. Hey, why pick a fight now? The festival's starting, Kirishima said, trying to ease the tension. I welcome the competition, Todoroki, Izuku grinned. But you're forgetting you have more than just me to face. Focus only on me, and any one of them could surpass you. The class perked up, inspired, except Bakugo, who muttered about crushing everyone. Mineta, closest to him, slid away nervously. That response was so manly, Midoriya. Kirishima fist pumped, grinning. Time to go. Let's march to the field orderly, Iida declared, leading the way. Present Mike's voice boomed from the booth, the crowd roaring. Make some noise, sports fans. Prep those cameras, media hordes. This year, we're bringing the hottest performances in sports festival history. One question before we start. Are you ready? Let me hear you. The stadium erupted. How'd I get roped into this? Aizawa grumbled beside him. Time to welcome our students. Mike shouted, starting alphabetically with our hero course classes. Give it up for Class 1A and Class 1B. The crowd exploded as Class 1A and 1B emerged from the tunnel. After the USJ attack, rumors swirled about how 2 teachers and 1 student stopped dozens of villains. Damn, this place is packed, Ciro said, awed by the flashing cameras. Next, the students who keep UA among Japan's top 3 academic schools. General Studies classes 1C, 1D, and 1E. Look out, hero course, some want your seats. Mike hyped, and Izuku noticed General Studies students stand taller. Some hero course students could learn from their grades, Aizawa quipped, making a few flinch. Now, our talented gear producers. Support course classes 1F, 1G, and 1H. Mike roared as support students, some in self-made gear, appeared. Mei smirked at Izuku. Quality gear can decide battles, Aizawa noted, support students grinning. And last, the ones mastering our economy and hero marketing. Business course classes 1I, 1J, and 1K. Want to go independent, hero course. Make friends here, Mike declared. Business students chuckled, knowing their value to aspiring pros. That was a fair intro for all courses, a general studies brunette remarked, Izuku catching her words. A loud crack drew attention to the stage, where Midnight appeared, her voluptuous form drawing grins from the male audience. It's time for the opening speech, she announced. Please welcome this year's chief umpire for the first-year tournament, the R-rated hero, Midnight. What about the principal? An attendee asked. He's at the third-year stage, every year. Another replied, eyes on Midnight. Someone should talk to Midnight about her outfit, Kirishima said, cheeks red. That costume needs a warning label, Kaminari agreed, staring. Is that appropriate for a high school festival? Tokiyami questioned. Mineta gave an enthusiastic thumbs up, his eyes practically groping Midnight. Silence, everyone, Midnight yelled, cracking her whip. For the student pledge, we have Midoriya Izuku of Class 1A. All eyes turned to Izuku, who knew his entrance exam score earned him this role. Ochako nudged him, smirking, and he chuckled, shaking his head at Midnight's subtle wink as he approached the stage. The crowd murmured. I'm pleased to represent my fellow first years, Izuku said, nodding to the students below. Some of you aren't into this event, while others aim for the hero course's 40 seats. To both, I say, let's have fun. But to those after-hours seats, bring your best. We earned our places in the entrance exam. If you want them, earn them here at the sports festival. We welcome the competition. Let's push each other toward our hero goals. The crowd erupted, cheering wildly. Midnight squealed, hugging herself at the youthful passion. Even the first years clapped, inspired. Izuku bowed and rejoined his class, May beaming at him. What a pledge. If that hasn't fired you up, you're already dead. Mike blasted. With that spirit blazing, let's reveal the first event. Get your foot off the desk, Aizawa muttered. Time to find out the first game. Midnight cried, the display behind her spinning. This is when our students feel the pressure. This year's first event is. The display stopped on. Obstacle race. An obstacle race. Midnight cracked her whip, her smile sadistic. Here we go, Mike yelled, the students staring at their first challenge. The sports festival was ready to get heated. An obstacle race. The first-year students chorused, eyes fixed on the display screen. The course will be one full lap around this stadium. The total length is 4 kilometers. As you all know, UA. High's selling point is freedom. Midnight gave a sadistic look as she licked her lips. There are only 2 rules. First, you have to run the entire course. No shortcuts or you'll be disqualified. The pro cracked her whip toward the first years. The second rule, no attacking other students. Messing with the field to your advantage is fine, direct attacks are not. Other than that, everything goes. You know the rules now, little listeners. Play fair and get back here first to be the winner. Break either of the 2 rules and you're out of the festival completely. Present Mike called out through the stadium speakers. Now, then, take your places, everyone. Midnight yelled, making the crowd cheer as the first event was about to begin. The students moved to the tunnel marking the starting line. Izuku Midoriya let out a sigh, feeling the sun's heat envelop his body as he glanced at his peers. The hero course students radiated determination, their seats on the line igniting a fire within them. He noted the same resolve in others, especially the purple-haired teen who'd declared war on Class 1A and Mei Hatsume, who flashed him a competitive smile. Izuku returned it, his pride simmering. The countdown began, the first red light fading. I wonder what the prize is for winning this race, Izuku mused. UA might offer an advantage for the next round, or a hidden challenge. They'd make success a trial. The yellow light blinked out. No time to wonder, I'll do my best. Izuku grinned, power surging through him. Even with more people around, I will win, he declared, as if victory was already his. His body bulked up, heat radiating from his form. The green light flashed. Start. Midnight and Mike shouted in unison. In an instant, every student surged forward. Izuku took a single leap, clearing the crowd faster than most could register, a blur of green and gold soaring above the chaos. Okay, let's check out the action. Ready to give commentary, Eraser? Present Mike asked Aizawa, I'm still not sure why I had to be up here, Aizawa drawled. We'll get started right away, Eraser. What should the crowd watch in the first few minutes? Mike pressed, undeterred. The moves made in this opening section will be important, Aizawa said, eyeing the first years rushing into the narrow tunnel. Inside, shouts echoed as students squeezed together, the tunnel too tight for all to pass. It was a deliberate test of ingenuity, forcing them to outsmart the bottleneck. A sudden chill hit, and the floor iced over, freezing most students' shoes to the ground. Cries of alarm and accusations of cheating rang out as Shoto Todoroki sprinted past, leaving a trail of ice. Sorry, but I have to win this race, Todoroki said, frost trailing behind him, making the path treacherous. Like hell, icy hot, Katsuki Bakugo roared, blasting into the air with explosions. Nice try, Todoroki, Eijiro Kirishima yelled, leaping to clear the ice before it trapped him. That was naive, Todoroki, Momo Yaoyorozu said, vaulting over the ice with a pole conjured from her palm. Excuse me, sorry, coming through. The purple-haired teen apologized, parkouring over trapped students to dodge the frost, using them as stepping stones. Your ice can't stop my sparkle, Yuga Aoyama declared, his laser propelling him through the air. Hey, that was close. Mina Ishido shouted, her acid-dissolving shoes clearing patches in the ice. I'm so glad I practiced this, Ochako Uraraka said, floating above the track, though her stomach churned. Not a fan of the cold, Tsuyu Asui noted, leaping beside Ochako, her frog quirk clearing the tunnel. You think you can get ahead of me, half-and-half bastard. Bakugo yelled, explosions boosting his speed. More people dodged that than I expected, Todoroki noted, refocusing on the track. He blinked. Stunned, Izuku was already far ahead, having cleared the tunnel entirely. When did he? Todoroki thought, unable to recall Izuku passing him. I didn't even see him. Asterisk. Yeah, Midoriya's already in the lead. He launched ahead before Todoroki's ice trap struck the tunnel. Talk about leg strength, Mike announced, the monitor zooming in on Izuku, widening his gap. That's what happens when you don't hesitate, Aizawa said. Midoriya saw the best course was to leap over the tunnel entirely, using his enhanced strength. He approved of his students' decisive action. You think you're so cool, but I've outsmarted you. Mineta taunted, bouncing over the ice with his sticky orbs. Ha, how pathetic, Todoroki. He posed, only to be smashed aside by a metallic fist, sent tumbling as dozens of one-pointer robots from the entrance exam burst through the track's walls. 8 zero-pointers rose from the forest, dust billowing. Ooh, enemies have appeared out of nowhere. A test of strength and cunning, the Robo Inferno. Mike announced as the robots targeted the students. Are those the zero-pointers from the exam? Denki Kaminari skidded to a halt with most of the first years. The hero course fought those. A student gasped. This is what they meant by obstacles. Another demanded, staring at the towering machines. There's too many. We can't get through. A third cried, daunted by the barrier. So, this is what the others faced in their exams. Todoroki mused, sizing up the robots. Where'd the school get funding for these? Momo wondered, standing with Ochako and Kyoka. Izuku, barely slowing, struck first. A massive bang echoed as he shoulder-tackled a zero-pointer, sending it reeling, its treads lifting off the ground. Begone, he commanded, hands pressed against its metal torso. Heat surged from his palms, the metal glowing red, then orange, yellow, and finally white as it melted. The zero-pointer collapsed, bisected by molten ruin, stunning the crowd. Whoa yeah, Mike screamed. Midoriya destroys a zero-pointer near instantly. What a display of power and control. He's back on the move, increasing his lead. Pro heroes in the stands leaned forward, eyes locked on Izuku. I won't let you beat me, Todoroki vowed, frost gathering in his hand, spreading across the ground. They went through a lot of trouble, but I wish they'd prepared something harder. Especially since dear old dad is watching. His tone dripped with mockery as he unleashed a blast of ice, encasing 3 zero-pointers. They froze mid-attack, and he darted between their legs, chasing Izuku. Look, he stopped them. A student shouted, we can get through between the legs. Another called, I wouldn't do that, Todoroki warned. I froze them off balance. The giants toppled, forcing students to scatter. On purpose, he added, unheard in the chaos, as he surged forward. Todoroki from Class 1A defeats multiple zero-pointers in one hit, trapping competitors behind frozen metal. He's one to watch. Almost unfair, Mike roared, standing. His attack was offensive and defensive. A rational, strategic move, Aizawa noted. That's expected of a recommended student. He's never fought those robots before. The Robo Inferno was extinguished by his chart-topping moves. Mike enthused. Like hell, I'm letting Icy Hot and Deku surpass me. Bakugo yelled, blasting over the remaining zero-pointers. Bakugo, also from 1A, won't throw in the towel. He goes overhead. Clever, Mike called as more students advanced. As expected, 1A and 1B are fastest through the first obstacle, Snipe noted from the teacher's booth. The others aren't bad, especially general studies students aiming for the hero course, Toshinori said. But the training difference is clear. Hero courses don't stand still, Aizawa added as 1A and 1B tore through robots. Momo blasted a zero-pointer's head with a conjured cannon. Mina melted robot heads with acid. Kaminari fried them with a touch. Iida kicked them aside. Kyoka shattered two with her jacks, vibrations. Shiro and Tokiyami followed Bakugo's lead, vaulting over. During the entrance exam, they were enemies to avoid. As opponents to defeat, they're just slow hunks of metal. Easy with smart shots, Snipe said as zero-pointers fell. For those who thought the first obstacle was easy, let's see how you handle the second. Mike grinned. The next obstacle was a bottomless pit, with tall stone platforms spaced far apart, connected by swaying ropes. If they take a spill, they're out. They'll have to get creative. It's the fall, Mike announced as Izuku surveyed the chasm. I can handle this, Izuku said, brimming with confidence. Crouching, he launched forward, flames erupting from his hands and feet, shocking the crowd. With precise control, he flew over the chasm's second half, landing cleanly. Incredible. Midoriya passes the second obstacle like it's nothing. This will widen his lead. Mike exclaimed, the crowd roaring. You won't escape, Todoroki growled, sliding across a rope with ice. He crossed a dozen platforms swiftly, reaching the other side. Damn you, Deku, I'm not copying you, Bakugo screamed, explosions propelling him over the obstacle. That's almost unfair, Ochako said, watching Bakugo. Yes, my chance to shine, Mei snickered, decked in support gear. Hatsume, don't overdo it, Ochako warned. Don't worry, Mei replied. Hero Course gets special training, so we bring our own gear to compete. We just have to make it. She launched a cable across the chasm, her hover soles lifting her with fans. Hope the support companies are watching. She swung, boots rocketing her halfway across. We're friends, but I won't lose, Ochako declared, crossing a rope. That gear's unfair, Mina huffed, following. On the other side, Todoroki saw Bakugo gaining, cursing as his arms ached from his quirk's kickback. Is he getting faster? A slow starter, Todoroki mused, pushing harder. Damn it, Bakugo growled, seeing Todoroki accelerate. You bastards keep looking down on me. The leading three hold their positions, while the pack stays clumped. The number advancing isn't revealed, so no one can relax. Keep going, Mike urged. Izuku reached the final obstacle, a field marked, Danger Mines. Smirking, he felt the sun's heat fuel his pride. With a single leap, he cleared the minefield, landing in a dust cloud and sprinting toward the finish. I couldn't even announce the final obstacle before Midoriya cleared it, Mike roared. He leapt the minefield in one go. What a student. Midoriya knows his limits well. He calculated that leap in seconds, Aizawa said. That's the knowledge pros need. Damn, Todoroki gritted, navigating the mines carefully. This shit doesn't affect me. Bakugo grinned, blasting into the air, his sore arms pushing through. I can't waste time, Todoroki decided, forming an ice pillar to launch himself. He rolled on landing, avoiding mine detonations, and skated forward on ice, shivering as he pushed his quirk. Izuku glanced back, seeing Todoroki and Bakugo closing in. Smirking, he sprinted, becoming a blur, kicking up dust as he crossed the finish line, skidding to a stop meters beyond. Midoriya makes one last impressive dash to win the obstacle race. Mike yelled as Todoroki and Bakugo crossed, Todoroki edging out Bakugo by a fraction. Bakugo growled, his hands trembling with pain. Confetti rained as the crowd roared. Izuku raised his fist, grinning proudly at the cheering pros, their excitement palpable. Exhaling, he donned his glasses, shrinking to normal size. The Midoriya home. Izuku, my baby. Inko sobbed, tears streaming as she watched the replay, pride overwhelming her despite the flood. The stadium roared with anticipation, the crowd's cheers a living pulse as the first-year students gathered on the field, their breaths visible in the crisp air of UA's sports festival. The obstacle race had just concluded, with Izuku Midoriya's blazing victory cementing his place as a force to be reckoned with. Confetti still drifted in the air, catching the sunlight like scattered embers, as Midnight took the stage, her whip cracking to silence the masses. "All right, you fired up first years," Midnight declared, her voice sultry yet commanding, amplified across the stadium. The obstacle race was just the warm-up. Now, it's time for the second event, the cavalry battle. The screen behind her flashed, revealing a diagram of teams carrying a rider. Here's the deal. You'll form teams of 2 to 4, with one rider and the rest as horses. Each team carries a headband worth points based on your obstacle race ranking. The lower your rank, the fewer points, starting at 5 and increasing by 5 per rank. But here's the kicker. She grinned wickedly, pointing at Izuku, who stood among his classmates, glasses off, his lion tattoo pulsing faintly through his gym uniform. The first place winner, Izuku Midoriya, carries a headband worth 1 million points. Take his team's headband, and you're guaranteed a spot in the next round. The crowd erupted, and the first years turned to Izuku, their eyes a mix of awe, envy, and predatory hunger. Class 1A, clustered near him, felt the weight of those stares. Izuku stood tall, his bulked-up form radiating heat, his green eyes gleaming with unshakable pride. "Who dares challenge the lion's throne?" he muttered under his breath, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Hold up, that's insane," Denki Kaminari yelped, clutching his head. 1 million points, everyone's gonna gun for Midoriya. "Talk about a target on his back," Kyokujiro said, twirling an earphone jack. "Good luck, man, manly or not, that's a rough deal," Eijiro Kirishima said, scratching his head, his sharp teeth glinting as he grinned at Izuku. "You got this, though, right?" Izuku's gaze swept the field, unperturbed. "Let them come. Their efforts will only burn in my radiance." Such confidence. Present Mike's voice boomed from the commentary booth, nearly rattling the speakers. "Midoriya's got the whole festival's eyes on him, and he's standing there like he owns the place. What a guy." "Right, Eraser." Aizawa, slouched beside him, bandages peeking from his collar, sighed heavily. "Mike, I'm begging you to lower your volume. I'm already regretting this booth assignment." "Oh, come on, Eraser. The crowd's eating this up. Look at that swagger." Mike gestured wildly, his sunglasses glinting. "The kid's a walking furnace. You think he's sweating under that pressure?" "He's not sweating," Aizawa deadpanned. "Unlike you, who's sweating enthusiasm all over this booth. Focus." The students were given 15 minutes to form teams, and the field buzzed with frantic negotiations. Izuku, however, stood alone, arms crossed, his presence a beacon of defiance. "I can carry this battle myself," he thought, envisioning charging through the fray, headband secure, leaving all challengers in ashes. His power surged, the air around him shimmering with heat, as if the sun itself crowned him. Before he could stride off, a familiar voice cut through his thoughts. "Not so fast, muscles." Mei Hatsume bounded over, her pink dreadlocks bouncing, her eyes gleaming with manic glee behind her goggles. She was decked out in a dizzying array of self-made gadgets, hover soles, wire launchers, and something suspiciously like a mini jetpack strapped to her back. "You're not doing this alone. Team up with me. My babies need the spotlight, and you're the perfect stage." She gestured to her gear, practically vibrating with excitement. Izuku raised an eyebrow, his pride bristling but intrigued. "Mei, I am the sun. I need no aid to shine." "PFF'd, even the sun needs a cool gadget to make it pop," Mei retorted, poking his chest. "Besides, you want to win, right? My babies will make you unstoppable. Look at these." She activated her hover soles, lifting an inch off the ground, then fired a wire that snagged a nearby pole, yanking her forward with a gleeful cackle. See, Team Izuku is a winner. Izuku's smirk softened. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and her tech could amplify his dominance. Fine, but know this. I carry my team, not the other way around. Deal, Mei squealed, already sketching designs in her head for their victory pose. Before Izuku could say more, Ochako floated over, her cheeks puffed out in mock indignation. Hey, Izuku, you're not leaving me out. I'm joining too. She crossed her arms, hovering an inch above the ground, her gym uniform slightly ruffled by her quirk. Mei's gonna go overboard with her gadgets, and you'll need someone to keep her in check. Plus, I'm not letting you hog all the glory. Mei grinned, undeterred. The more, the merrier. Floaty girls got spunk. Let's make this team the flashiest. Izuku chuckled, the heat around him flaring briefly. Very well, Ochako, Hatsume, you'll ride on my shoulders. I'll be the horse. None can match my strength. His voice carried a regal authority, his muscles flexing as he towered over them, the lion tattoo almost glowing under the stadium lights. Ochako blushed but nodded, determined. Got it. But, don't drop me, okay? Drop you. Perish the thought, Izuku said, his tone dripping with pride. No one falls under my protection. Ah, that's so sweet. Mei cooed, then immediately switched gears. Now, let's talk strategy. My wire arrows can snag headbands from a distance, and my hover souls can give us a boost if we need to dodge. Ochako, you can make us weightless to confuse the competition. And Izuku, you just keep being, well, a walking bonfire of awesome. Bonfire of awesome. I like that. Present Mike crowed, his voice echoing. Team Midoriya's forming up with Hatsume from support and Uraraka from 1A. This trio's got power, tech, and gravity-defying flair. What's your take, Eraser? Aizawa pinched the bridge of his nose. Mike, if you say, awesome, one more time, I'm shoving you out of this booth. They're a strong team, but Midoriya's carrying 1,000,000 points. Every team will target them. It's a test of endurance and strategy. Spoilsport, Mike laughed. But you're right. Look at those teams forming. It's a feeding frenzy out there. Indeed, the field was a chaos of alliances. Shoto Todoroki teamed with Momo Yaoyorozu, Tenya Iida, and Denki Kaminari, their headbands totaling a respectable 620 points. Katsuki Bakugo, barking orders, rallied Eijiro Kirishima, Hontasiro, and Mina Ishido, their points at 445. The purple-haired teen from General Studies, Hitoshi Shinso, formed a team with 3 others from 1C, their combined points modest but their determination fierce. Even Class 1B's Tetsu led a squad, his sharp teeth bared in a grin as he eyed Izuku's headband. As teams finalized, Izuku knelt, allowing Ochako and Mei to climb onto his shoulders. Ochako settled on his left, gripping his head for balance, her cheeks flushed. This is higher than I expected, she squeaked, her legs dangling. Mei, on his right, was already tinkering with a gadget, muttering about optimal thrust vectors. Hold still, Izuku, I'm calibrating my babies for maximum dazzle. She accidentally poked him with a screwdriver, earning a mock glare. Oops, my bad. Focus, Mei, Izuku said, rising to his full height, his voice resonant. We are the sun's vanguard. None shall eclipse us. The heat radiating from him made the air shimmer, and nearby teams instinctively stepped back, feeling his power. Start. Midnight's whip cracked, and the cavalry battle began. The field exploded into motion, teams charging toward Izuku's trio like a tidal wave. Todoroki's team led the assault, ice spreading across the ground, aiming to trap Izuku's feet. Target acquired, Todoroki said coolly, Momo conjuring a shield to block counterattacks. Think you can freeze the sun? Izuku roared, his voice shaking the air. He stomped, heat pulsing from his foot, melting the ice into steam. Ochako yelped, clinging tighter, while Mei cackled, firing a wire arrow that snagged a low-point headband from a 1C team, who shrieked in protest. Nice shot, Mei, Ochako cheered, then activated her quirk, making their trio weightless. Izuku leapt, soaring over a charging 1B team, landing with a thud that cracked the ground. Whoa, warn me next time. Ochako gasped, her stomach lurching. Sorry, Floaty, Mei laughed, firing another wire, this time missing and nearly tangling a 1D team's legs. My babies are still warming up. Warming up. You're gonna strangle someone, Ochako shouted, only half joking. Focus, both of you. Izuku commanded, dodging a barrage of tape from Shiro, courtesy of Bakugo's team. You extras can't touch me. Bakugo bellowed, blasting forward, his team struggling to keep up with his reckless pace. Bakugo's got no chill, Mike howled, nearly toppling his chair. This guy's a human rocket. And Midoriya's team is untouchable, look at that dodge. Eraser, you seeing this? I see you making my headache worse, Aizawa groaned. Midoriya's team is leveraging their quirks well. Uraraka's gravity control gives them mobility, and Hatsume's gadgets are unpredictable. They're a nightmare to pin down. Nightmare. They're a spectacle, Mike countered. Hatsume's shooting wires like a sci-fi cowboy, and Uraraka's got them floating like a UFO. Midoriya's just bulldozing through. Talk about a power trio. Izuku sprinted, his enhanced strength carrying Mei and Ochako effortlessly. A1B team, led by Tetsu, charged with steel-hardened fists. You're mine, Midoriya, Tetsu roared, swinging. Izuku sidestepped, heat flaring, and Tetsu's fist grazed his shoulder, sizzling on contact. Ow! Hot! Tetsu yelped, shaking his hand. Steel melts in my presence, Izuku declared, spinning to face Shinso's team, who approached cautiously. Shinso's eyes glinted, his voice calm. Nice moves, Midoriya, why not hand over that headband? When Izuku spoke he froze mid-step and mid-sentence, his mind clouding. Ochako noticed his pause. Izuku, snap out of it, she shouted, smacking his head. The jolt broke Shinso's control, and Izuku growled, heat flaring. Fool, you think to bind the lion. He charged, forcing Shinso's team to scatter, their headband snatched by Mei's wire. Got it, Mei cheered, waving the headband. My babies are on fire. Literally, Mei, watch it. Ochako yelped as a stray spark from Mei's jetpack singed her sleeve. You're gonna burn us. Details. Mei laughed, adjusting her goggles. Shinso's brainwashing almost had Midoriya. Mike gasped, but Uraraka's quick thinking saved the day. That's teamwork, folks, Aizawa sighed. Mike, if you don't stop yelling, I'll erase your quirk and your voice. Midoriya's team is holding, but they're drawing too much attention. They need to pace themselves. The battle raged, teams colliding in a frenzy of quirks and strategies. Todoroki's team closed in again, Ida's engines roaring as they flanked Izuku. Now, Kaminari, Todoroki ordered. Kaminari unleashed a shockwave, electricity crackling toward Izuku's trio. Ochako, now, Izuku barked. She made them weightless, and Izuku leapt, the electricity grazing below. Mei fired a wire, snagging another headband from a 1E team, who cursed as they stumbled. Keep it up, Mei, Izuku said, landing and sprinting toward the center, where fewer teams dared to clash. Bakugo's team barreled in, Mina's acid clearing a path. Deku, you're dead, Bakugo screamed, explosions propelling them forward. Shiro shot tape, aiming for Mei's jetpack. Izuku spun, heat vaporizing the tape midair. Your flames are no match for my pride. He taunted, charging Bakugo's team head-on. Oh, this is getting spicy. Mike whooped. Bakugo versus Midoriya. It's like a volcano versus a supernova. Who's gonna blow first? Mike, I swear. Aizawa started, but Mike ignored him, leaning into the mic. Look at Midoriya go. He's carrying two girls on his shoulders and still outrunning half the field. That's raw power. Izuku's team weaved through the chaos, Mei's wires snagging headbands left and right, though half her shots went wild, nearly hitting allies. Mei, aim, Ochako pleaded, dodging a stray wire that zipped past her ear. I'm aiming. It's artistic chaos, Mei protested, her jetpack sputtering comically, sending them wobbling. Izuku steadied them with a grunt, his strength unwavering. Artistic chaos, you're gonna get us disqualified. Ochako laughed, despite herself. As the timer ticked down, Todoroki's team made a final push, ice walls rising to box Izuku in. You're not escaping, Todoroki said, Momo conjuring a net to trap them. Izuku's eyes blazed, and he raised a hand. Cruel sun. A small, fiery orb formed, melting the ice and vaporizing the net. The crowd gasped, and Todoroki's team faltered, their headband snatched by Mei in the chaos. Another point for Team Meizuku. Mei crowed, waving the headband like a flag. Stop naming us that, Ochako groaned, but she was grinning, caught up in the madness. The final seconds loomed, and Izuku faced Bakugo's team, the last major threat. You can't outshine me, Deku. Bakugo roared, launching a massive explosion. Izuku countered with a heat wave, the clash sending shockwaves across the field. Ochako made them weightless, and Izuku leapt, soaring over Bakugo's team, landing just as the buzzer sounded. Time's up, Midnight declared, her whip cracking. The cavalry battle is over. Let's see the scores. The scoreboard flashed. Izuku's team held the 1 million point headband, plus 300 points from stolen bands, securing first place. Todoroki's team took second with 820 points, Bakugo's third with 645, and Shinso's fourth with 510, their brainwashing strategy netting surprise points. The crowd roared, and Izuku lowered Mei and Ochako, who slid off his shoulders, laughing. We did it, Ochako cheered, high-fiving Mei, who was already muttering about upgrading her jetpack. You both shone brightly, Izuku said, his voice warm but regal, his lion tattoo glowing faintly as he stood tall, unchallenged. None could dim our light. Wow, what a finish. Mike screamed, nearly knocking over his mic stand. Team Midoriya takes the gold, carrying that million-point burden like it's nothing. Uraraka's gravity tricks and Hatsume's gadget chaos were the perfect combo. Eraser, admit it, that was epic. Aizawa rubbed his temples. Mike, I'm this close to throwing you into the minefield. They won because Midoriya's power overwhelmed the competition, and his teammates covered his weaknesses. Now stop shouting before I erase your existence. Love you too, buddy. Mike laughed, dodging Aizawa's glare. As the teams dispersed, Izuku caught Todoroki's eye, the ice and fire user nodding grudgingly. Bakugo fumed, kicking the ground, while Shinso watched Izuku with calculating interest. Mei tugged Izuku's arm, babbling about her next invention, and Ochako nudged him, grinning. You're gonna have to carry us again in the finals, you know. Izuku smirked, heat flaring briefly. Let the finals come. The lion's pride bows to no one. The stadium vibrated with cheers, the stage set for the battles ahead, and Izuku stood ready, his power a blazing sun over UA. The UA Sports Festival Stadium thrummed with energy, the crowd's fervor a living force as the first-year students regrouped after the electrifying cavalry battle. Izuku Midoriya stood among his classmates, his gym uniform slightly singed from his own heat, the lion tattoo on his back pulsing faintly, visible through the fabric. His glasses were off, his green eyes blazing with a pride that seemed to radiate warmth, drawing wary glances from competitors and odd stares from spectators. The 1 million point headband had secured his team's victory, but the weight of being the prime target only fueled his resolve. The field was a mosaic of trampled earth and melted ice, remnants of the chaotic battle, and the air buzzed with anticipation for the final event, the one-on-one tournament. Midnight strode onto the stage, her whip snapping the air, silencing the crowd. What a cavalry battle, she purred, her voice carrying a playful menace. You first years brought the heat, and now it's time to turn up the flames. The final event is a one-on-one tournament. The top 16 from the cavalry battle will face off in single combat, showcasing their strength, strategy, and spirit. Although there were those who thought they didn't give it their all and lets others have a fighting Seagants in their place, oh how youthful. The matchups are randomized, check the board. The massive screen flickered, displaying the bracket. Izuku's name sat at the top, his first opponent, Itsuka Kendo from Class 1B. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kendo's big fist quirk was formidable, her tactical mind sharper still. Izuku's lips curled into a faint smirk. A worthy test, he thought, his pride eager to measure her strength. Wowza, what a lineup. Present Mike's voice blasted from the commentary booth, nearly shaking the stands. Midoriya's up first against Kendo from 1B. That's gonna be a clash of titans. Right, Eraser. Aizawa, slouched in his seat, bandages peeking from his collar, groaned. Mike, I'm one outburst away from taping your mouth shut. Midoriya's power is overwhelming, but Kendo's no slouch. Her quirk and intellect make her a real threat. This'll be a fight of brawn versus brains. Brains, brawn, and a whole lot of brawl. Mike whooped, ignoring Aizawa's scowl. Kendo's fists are like wrecking balls, but Midoriya's a walking solar flare. Who's gonna shine brighter? As the students dispersed to prepare, Izuku made his way toward the waiting area, his stride purposeful, heat trailing him like a cloak. The corridor was quiet, the distant roar of the crowd muffled by concrete walls. Before he reached the prep room, a lanky figure stepped into his path. Toshinori Yagi, All Might's frail form, his sunken eyes earnest but hesitant. "Young Midoriya," Toshinori began, his voice soft, almost pleading. "A moment, please. I need to talk to you." Izuku stopped, his expression hardening, the air around him growing warmer. "I have no time for fakers, All Might," he said, his tone icy despite the heat. "Speak quickly, or not at all." Toshinori flinched but pressed on, his hands raised placatingly. "I know you don't trust me, and I understand why. Your power, it's extraordinary, unlike anything I've seen, even in my prime. But I see the weight you carry, the pride. I only want to offer guidance, to help you harness it for the greater good." Izuku's eyes narrowed, his voice cutting like a blade. "Guidance. From a man who hides his weakness behind a smile. I am the lion sin of pride, forged by my own will and my benefactor's gift. I need no counsel from a fading star." He stepped closer, heat flaring, making Toshinori sweat. "You think you know power. You know only its shadow. Step aside, or I'll walk through you." Toshinori's shoulders sagged, but he held his ground. "I'm not your enemy, Midoriya. I see a hero in you, but pride can blind even the strongest. Please, just enough." Izuku snapped, his voice echoing in the corridor. "My path is mine alone. Save your words for those who need them." He brushed past, leaving Toshinori in a haze of lingering heat, the symbol of peace staring after him, worry etched into his gaunt face. Moments later, Izuku found himself in a secluded prep room, the door clicking shut behind him. The air was cool, a stark contrast to the warmth he exuded. Before he could settle, a knock sounded, and Shoto Todoroki entered, his heterochromatic eyes locked on Izuku with an intensity that matched the verdette's own. "Midoriya," Todoroki said, closing the door, his voice steady but carrying a quiet storm. "We need to talk." Izuku leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his tattoo pulsing faintly. "Speak, Todoroki. I'm listening, but my patience is not infinite." Todoroki's jaw tightened, his left side frosting slightly, betraying his emotions. "You're the strongest in our class, maybe in the festival. I saw what you did in the cavalry battle, carrying your team, melting obstacles, outpacing everyone. But I'm not here to praise you. I'm here to tell you I will surpass you." Izuku's smirk was sharp, his eyes glinting like embers. "Bold words from one who trails in my shadow. You think your ice and fire can eclipse the sun? Prove it, then." Todoroki stepped closer, undeterred. "This isn't just about power. It's personal. My father, Endeavor, expects me to be his perfect weapon, to surpass All Might using only his fire. I reject that. I'll win this tournament with my ice alone, to spite him. But you," he paused, his voice lowering. "You don't just challenge me. You challenge everything he stands for. You call All Might weak, yet you wield power like a god. Who are you, Midoriya? What drives you?" Izuku's gaze bore into Todoroki, the room warming as his pride surged. "I am Izuku Midoriya, the lion sin of pride, chosen by the sun itself. My drive, to be unmatched, to protect those under my care, to forge a legacy that burns eternal. Your father's ambitions, All Might's legacy, they're fleeting sparks compared to my flame. You want to surpass me? Then cast aside your doubts, Todoroki. Embrace your full power, or you'll never touch me." Todoroki's eyes widened, a flicker of fire sparking in his left pupil. "You're right about one thing. I've been holding back. But I won't use his fire. I'll defeat you my way, to prove I'm not his puppet. And when I do, you'll see I'm more than a shadow." Izuku laughed, a low, resonant sound that filled the room. "I welcome the challenge, Todoroki. But know this, the lion bows to no one, not even a storm. Bring your best, or be consumed." He turned, striding out, leaving Todoroki in a haze of heat and resolve, the air crackling with their unspoken rivalry. The stadium was a cauldron of noise as Izuku stepped onto the arena, the crowd's cheers a tidal wave. The concrete ring was surrounded by raised stands, every seat filled, cameras flashing like stars. Across from him stood Itsuka Kendo, her orange hair tied back, her stance confident but wary. Her hands were already enlarged, fists the size of boulders, her eyes sharp with tactical focus. The board above displayed their names, Midoriya vs. Kendo. Round 1. Alright, folks, it's time for the first match of the one-on-one tournament. Present Mike bellowed, his voice a sonic boom. Izuku Midoriya, the million-point marvel, faces Itsuka Kendo, Class 1B's strategic powerhouse. This is gonna be a banger. What's your take, Eraser? Aizawa sighed, rubbing his temples. Mike, I'm counting your outbursts, and you're at 15. Stop before I make you. Midoriya's raw power is unmatched, but Kendo's big fist quirk and quick thinking make her a wildcard. If she outsmarts him, she could drag this out. If that's the spirit, Eraser. A grudging prediction. Mike laughed. Kendo's got those giant mitts, but Midoriya's a walking inferno. Let's see who cracks first. Midnight raised her whip. No weapons, no leaving the ring, and no lethal moves. Fight with honor, or I'll have you both in detention for a month. Ready, begin. Kendo moved first, her enlarged fist swinging in a devastating arc. I'm not holding back, Midoriya. She shouted, her voice clear and resolute. The ground trembled as her fist slammed down, aiming to pin Izuku against the arena's edge. Izuku dodged with fluid grace, his body a blur of heat and muscle. Good, I'd be insulted if you did, he retorted, his voice booming with pride. He ducked under her next swing, the air whistling as her fist grazed his hair. She's fast for those fists, he noted, his mind sharp despite his power's intensity. Let's test her resolve, he lunged, aiming a palm strike at her midsection, heat pulsing from his hand. Kendo twisted, her enlarged hand blocking, the impact sending a shockwave through the arena. You're strong, but I'm not just brawn, she said, pivoting to slam both fists down like hammers. Izuku leapt back, the concrete cracking where he'd stood, dust rising in clouds. Nice dodge, Kendo called, grinning despite the stakes. But you can't run forever. Who's running? Izuku countered, his grin fierce. He charged, heat flaring around him, and slid under her next strike, popping up behind her. You're quick, Kendo, but can you keep up? He unleashed a controlled heat wave, not enough to burn but enough to push her back, her hair fluttering in the hot gust. The crowd roared, captivated by the dance of power and precision. Kendo's holding her own, Mike shouted. Those fists are like wrecking balls, but Midoriya's slipping through like he's made of smoke. What's he planning, Eraser? He's testing her, Aizawa said, his voice steady. Midoriya could end this quickly, but he's gauging her limits. Kendo's smart. She's trying to corner him, but she's burning energy fast. She needs a plan, or she's done. Kendo, panting slightly, narrowed her eyes. You're toying with me, aren't you? She accused, her fist shrinking briefly before enlarging again, this time faster, aiming a rapid flurry of punches. I'm not here to be your warm-up. Izuku weaved through the barrage, his movements almost leisurely, heat shimmering around him. Toying. No, Kendo, I'm honoring you by testing your mettle. Show me the strength of 1B. He caught her wrist mid-swing, his grip like iron, heat searing but not burning. She gasped, pulling back, and he released her, stepping back with a nod. Impressive, but not enough. Kendo gritted her teeth, her mind racing. He's too fast, too strong. I need to outsmart him. She feinted a left punch, then swung her right fist low, aiming for his legs to trip him. Izuku leapt, flipping over her fist, landing with a thud that sent a pulse of heat through the arena. Clever, he praised, his voice genuine. But the sun doesn't fall so easily. She charged again, this time creating a smokescreen of dust with a ground-shaking punch. Try dodging what you can't see, she shouted, her fist sweeping through the haze. Izuku's senses, honed by his pride and power, caught her movement. He sidestepped, grabbing her arm and using her momentum to spin her toward the ring's edge. She caught herself just before crossing the line, her fist shrinking as she steadied her breathing. Close call, Mike yelped, nearly toppling his chair. Kendo's pulling out all the stops, but Midoriya's reading her like a book. This kid's a monster. Mike, That's 16, Aizawa growled. Kendo's strategy is solid, but Midoriya's instincts are sharper. She's running out of options. Kendo, sweat beading on her forehead, grinned defiantly. You're good, Midoriya, but I'm not done yet. She enlarged both fists to their maximum, the size of small cars, and slammed them together, creating a shockwave that rattled the arena. Izuku braced, heat flaring to disperse the force, but the move bought Kendo a moment to reposition, circling him like a predator. You've got spirit, Izuku said, his voice resonant, almost regal. But spirit alone won't douse my flame. He raised a hand, and the air shimmered as a small, controlled sun formed above his palm, no larger than a basketball but radiating intense heat. Cruel sun, he declared, hurling it not at Kendo but at the ground between them, creating a barrier of scorching air that forced her back. Kendo shielded her face, her fist shrinking to normal size to avoid overheating. That's unfair, she laughed, despite herself. You're like fighting a volcano. A volcano bows to the sun, Izuku replied, advancing through the heat haze, his presence overwhelming. He closed the distance, dodging her desperate punch and grabbing both her wrists, his grip firm but not cruel. You fought well, Kendo. But this ends now. With a surge of strength, he spun her, pushing her gently but firmly toward the ring's edge. She stumbled, her foot crossing the line just as she tried to catch herself. Out, Midnight declared, her whip cracking. Itsuka Kendo is out of bounds. Izuku Midoriya advances to the next round. The crowd erupted, a tidal wave of cheers and gasps. Kendo, panting, straightened and offered Izuku a respectful nod. You're something else, Midoriya. I gave it my all, but you're on another level. Izuku returned the nod, his expression softening but still proud. You honored Class 1B, Kendo. Your strength is undeniable. Keep burning bright. He extended a hand, and she shook it, her grin genuine despite the loss. Holy smokes, what a match. Mike screamed, his voice cracking with excitement. Midoriya didn't just win, he dominated with style. Kendo gave him a run, but that heat, that power. I'm sweating just watching. Mike, that's 17, and I'm not joking about the tape, Aizawa said, his voice flat but his eyes sharp, watching Izuku. Midoriya controlled the fight from start to finish. Kendo pushed him, but his power and precision were too much. He's a problem for the rest of the tournament. As Izuku walked off the arena, the crowd's cheers followed him, a chorus of awe and anticipation. He felt the weight of their eyes, pro heroes, students, and rivals like Todoroki and Bakugo, watching from the stands. His pride swelled, but he tempered it, knowing the battles ahead would test him further. Let them come, he thought, his tattoo glowing faintly. The lion's reign is only beginning. To be continued. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and make sure to like and please hype this video. Now we will see you in the next video.